You are a registry inspector at Ellis Island on April 17, 1907. The day 11. 747 people moved through a building designed for 5,000. And you processed 427 immigration cases at a rate of 1 every 2 to 3 minutes, while carrying a notebook of 43 names that could end your career. Not because the decisions were difficult, because you chose mercy over regulation 43 times. And in 35 minutes a supervisor who built his career catching hand movements begins his rotation at your station. Here's what it actually cost to be the person who decided 427 futures, while protecting evidence of 43 illegal mercies. The families separated by trachoma diagnosis. The workers deported for answering the contract labor question honestly. The names in your pocket that prove the gap between law and conscience. If sleep stories built on impossible choices help you drift off, hit subscribe and we'll keep building them. You reach for your pocket watch at 2:40 p.m., and the notebook's corner presses against your ribs through the coat fabric. The Great Hall of Ellis Island, on April 17, 1907, is not designed for 11,747 people. It was designed for 5,000. The difference between design capacity and actual capacity is what happens when you put 6,747 extra bodies into a space that has already run out of air. The smell is 2 weeks of ocean crossing compressed into a single ferry ride, then compressed again into a room with a 49-foot vaulted ceiling that does absolutely nothing to help. Sweat. Wet wool. Bread that went stale 3 days into the Atlantic. The particular smell of fear when you don't speak the language and a man in a uniform is writing things down about your future. You sit at Station 7. Registry Inspector Thomas Johnson. 11 years at this desk. You have processed 287 cases since your shift began at 7 a.m. You will process approximately 140 more before the day ends at 6 p.m. The Bureau of Immigration measures your performance in cases per hour and documentation accuracy. You currently maintain a processing rate that keeps you off the supervisor's audit list. What the Bureau doesn't know is that you also maintain a second record. The notebook in your left coat pocket contains 43 names, written in a personal shorthand only you can read. 43 people you admitted in the past 6 months, whose circumstances didn't meet the technical requirements but whose rejections would have meant certain death if returned to their points of origin. A tubercular man from Krakow whose brother in Pittsburgh could afford the treatment. A widow from Calabria with 3 children and no visible means of support. A Lithuanian boy whose chalk mark from the staircase doctor was for a limp that came from a beating by Russian soldiers, not a chronic condition. 43 times you looked at the regulation, looked at the person in front of you and wrote down the answer that would let them through. If discovered during a supervisor inspection, the notebook would end your career and possibly result in criminal charges for violation of immigration law. You would be tried under the same statute used to prosecute inspectors who take bribes. The sentence is identical whether you took money or just decided the law was wrong. You check your watch again. 2:42 p.m. Senior Inspector William Morrison begins his rotation at 3:15 p.m., 33 minutes from now. His route covers stations 5 through 9, which means he will stand behind you for approximately 6 to 8 minutes, watching the way you conduct interviews, the rhythm of your questioning, and the things you do with your hands when you think nobody is paying attention. Morrison is 47 years old, former Pinkerton detective. Transferred to Ellis Island 8 months ago after exposing a bribery ring at the Boston immigration station that resulted in 4 federal prison sentences. He watches for behavioral patterns the way other men watch for paperwork errors. Repetitive hand movements, breaks in interview rhythm. Anything that indicates an inspector is thinking about something other than the case in front of them. You reach for your left coat pocket approximately once per hour when you stretch your writing hand. It is an unconscious movement. You have done it 387 times in the past 6 months, which averages to roughly 13 times per shift. Morrison's leather notebook currently contains observations on 2 other inspectors flagged this month for documentation review. The reviews did not end well for either inspector. Station 7 sits in the center of the Great Hall's main processing floor. To your left, Station 6 handles German and Scandinavian cases. To your right, Station 8 processes Italian and Greek arrivals. Behind you, the staircase that brought everyone up from the ferry landing. In front of you, the wire mesh barrier that separates inspectors from the families waiting in the pens. Beyond that, approximately 200 people, standing in lines that fold back on themselves 7 times, because the room has run out of length. The April light comes through the arched windows at an angle that reaches your desk around 2:30 p.m. and lasts until 4 o'clock. For 90 minutes each afternoon, Station 7 gets direct sun. You can see faces clearly during this window. Trachoma scars. Exhaustion. The specific look of someone who sold everything they owned to afford steerage passage and is now watching an American in a wool suit decide whether the sale was worth it. Interpreter Sophia Kowalski stands to your right, half a step back from the desk. She has worked this station for 3 years. She speaks Polish, Russian, Ukrainian, and Yiddish. She translates the meaning rather than the literal words when a literal translation would create problems. Most interpreters do this. The good ones know when the immigrant's actual answer is not the answer that will get them admitted, and they adjust the translation accordingly without being asked. You have never discussed the notebook with Sophia. You have also never needed to. In 6 months of working together, she has paused half a second longer when translating a rejection exactly 4 times. Always for cases where the rejection was procedurally correct and catastrophically wrong. The pause is not for you. It is her own record, kept in a silence you both maintain. Your pen sits beside the ledger, black ink, institutional grade. You will use approximately 1/3 of the bottle today. The questions are printed on the form. 29 questions per immigrant, asked in the order specified by regulation. Name, age, occupation, amount of money carried, final destination, whether any person awaits their arrival, whether they have a job waiting, whether they are an anarchist, whether they are a polygamist, whether they can read and write. You ask the questions exactly as written. You record the answers exactly as spoken. The interview lasts 2 to 3 minutes if the answers are simple. Longer if the answers require interpreter clarification. Longer still if the answer to question 17, have you been promised a job, is yes, because a yes answer to question 17 means the immigrant has violated the contract labor law and must be detained for a Board of Special Inquiry hearing. Question 17 is the Bureau's favorite trap. Most immigrants do not understand that having a job waiting is the thing that will get them deported. At 2:43 p.m. you look up from your desk and signal for the next case. A Hungarian woman approaches the desk, guided forward by a uniformed attendant. She is approximately 35 years old, dark hair pulled back, cotton dress that was probably a good dress 2 weeks ago before the Atlantic. A boy beside her, maybe 7 years old, holding her hand. No chalk marks on either of them, which means they passed the medical inspection on the staircase. Sophia steps forward. Hungarian, she asks. The woman nods. Sophia switches languages. The woman answers. Sophia translates. Her name is Esther Nagy. The boy is her son Mihaly. They are from a village near Debrecen. You write the names in the ledger. The pen scratches. The sound joins 26 other pens scratching at 26 other stations across the Great Hall, a soft industrial rhythm, underneath the multilingual murmur of 747 people, who are all waiting for their names to be called. Age? You ask. Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia converts. She is 34. The boy is 6. You record this. You move to the next question. Occupation? Sophia translates. The woman hesitates, then answers in a longer sentence that Sophia compresses into 3 English words. She is a seamstress. You write seamstress. You do not ask about the hesitation. Hesitations are common. Exhaustion is common. Fear is common. You have processed 287 cases today. You have seen 287 hesitations. Final destination? Sophia translates. The woman answers, Pennsylvania, a town called Allentown. You record this. Pennsylvania, Allentown. You know the name. Coal country, factory work, silk mills. Hungarian population settled there beginning in the 1890s. Do you have $25 or more in your possession? Sophia translates. The woman reaches into her coat and produces a small cloth purse. She opens it and shows you the bills inside. You count without touching. $28. You record. $28. Is anyone waiting for you in Allentown? The woman answers immediately. Sophia translates. Her husband. He works in a silk mill. He has been there for 1 year. You record this. Husband. Allentown. Employed. This is good. Family reunion cases with employed sponsors are straightforward admissions. Then you reach question 17. Have you been promised a job? Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia pauses. It is not the usual half second. It is a full second, maybe longer. Her face does not change. She translates in the same neutral tone she uses for every answer. She says no. You write, no. You finish the remaining 12 questions. Health, good. Literacy. No anarchist. No polygamist. No criminal record. No. You complete the form. You stamp the admission card. You hand it to Esther Nagy, and explain through Sophia that she will board the ferry to Manhattan at 4:30 p.m., and from there she will proceed to the Pennsylvania Railroad terminal. The woman takes the card. She says something in Hungarian. Sophia does not translate. The woman leaves. The boy follows. They disappear into the mass of people moving toward the exit corridor. You reach for your pocket. You stretch your writing hand. The notebook's corner is exactly where it always is. Case 288 is already approaching the desk. The clock reads 2:46 p.m. Case 288 is a Polish man, maybe 40 years old, wearing a wool coat that has been repaired in 3 places with thread that does not match. No chalk marks. He carries a single canvas bag that looks empty. Sophia asks, Polish? He nods. Sophia switches. He answers. She translates. His name is Kazimierz Wojcik, from a village near Lodz. You write the name. The spelling does not matter for the ledger, as long as it is phonetically close. You have written approximately 11,000 Polish names in 11 years. You stopped worrying about precise transliteration after the first month. Age? 41. You record this. 41. Past the age when physical labor is easy. Not yet old enough to be flagged for medical review unless symptoms are obvious. Occupation. The man answers in a sentence long enough that Sophia has to wait for him to finish before translating. He worked in a textile factory in Lodz. The factory closed last year. He has been doing day labor since then. You write, textile worker. Final destination. Chicago. Do you have $25 or more? The man reaches into his coat. He produces a small purse, opens it, shows you the bills. You count, $32. You record, $32. Is anyone waiting for you in Chicago? Yes, his brother. The brother works in a meatpacking plant. You record, brother, employed, Chicago, another family reunion case. Straightforward. Then, question 17. Have you been promised a job? Sophia translates. The man answers immediately, a short answer, 2 words in Polish. Sophia translates without pause. Yes. You stop writing. You look up at the man. He is smiling slightly, the way people smile when they think they have given the correct answer to a test question. This is the problem with question 17. The immigrant thinks you want to know they will not be a burden. They think you want proof they have work waiting. They do not understand that the correct answer, the answer that will admit them, is no. A yes answer to question 17 means the immigrant has violated the contract labor law of 1885, which prohibits any person from entering the United States under a prearranged contract of employment. The reasoning is that contract labor depresses wages for American workers. The law was designed to stop industrialists from importing cheap European labor to break strikes. In practice, it stops people like Kazimierz Wojcik, who has a brother in Chicago who mentioned in a letter that the meatpacking plant is hiring. A yes answer to question 17 means detention. Detention means a Board of Special Inquiry hearing. The hearing will determine whether the job offer constitutes a contract. If the board rules it does, the immigrant is deported. The appeal process takes 3 to 6 weeks. During that time, the immigrant is held in the detention dormitory. They do not work. They do not earn money. They wait. The contract labor question is the 1907 equivalent of a technical foul that ends your season. You came here because your brother said the plant is hiring. You answered honestly because honesty seems like the safest option when a government official asks you a direct question. What you did not know is that the technical definition of contract labor includes informal verbal arrangements between family members, and the inspector asking the question has the authority to interpret your brother's letter as evidence of a pre-arranged contract that violates federal law. The law is very clear, the situation is very stupid. You are now in a position where the correct legal answer is to detain this man, separate him from the rest of his manifest group, and refer his case to a board hearing that will probably rule against him, because the statute is written in a way that does not distinguish between a Carnegie Steel recruitment contract and a brother saying they're hiring at the plant. You have detained 114 people for contract labor violations in 11 years. Approximately 60% were deported. The others were admitted after hearings that averaged 4 weeks. You have never felt good about any of these detentions. You have also never violated the procedure. Until 6 months ago, you followed the regulation exactly as written. You look at the man, he is still smiling. He does not know what the smile just cost him. Sophia stands beside you, half a step back. She has not moved, her face shows nothing. She has translated thousands of yes answers to question 17. She knows what happens next. You have 2 options. Option 1. You record the yes answer, complete the interview, stamp the detention card, and explain through Sophia that he will be held for a Board of Special Inquiry hearing. You follow the regulation. You process the case correctly. The man spends the next 4 weeks in a detention dormitory waiting for a hearing that will probably end with deportation. He loses the $32 he spent on passage. His brother in Chicago waits at the station for someone who never arrives. You go home with a clear record and no legal exposure. Option 2. You look at the man and ask the question again. You ask the question again. Have you been promised a job? Sophia translates. She does not change her tone. She does not emphasize anything. She simply repeats the question in Polish as if you are confirming the answer because you did not hear it clearly the first time. The man looks confused. He answers again. Same answer, 2 words. Sophia translates. He says yes. His brother told him there is work at the plant. You lean forward slightly. You speak directly to the man, and Sophia translates as you go. Is there a written contract? The man shakes his head. No. Did your brother sign any papers on your behalf? No. Did the company send you any documents? No. So you do not have a job. You have a brother who mentioned that his workplace is hiring, and you will look for work when you arrive. The man hesitates. He is beginning to understand that his previous answer was wrong, though he does not understand why. Sophia translates your statement as a clarifying question, and the man nods slowly. Yes, he says, I will look for work. Sophia translates, he says he does not have a job promised, he will seek employment after arrival. You write in the ledger, no contract, will seek work. You complete the remaining questions, you stamp the admission card. You hand it to Kazimierz Wojcik, and explain through Sophia that he will board the ferry to Manhattan, and from there he will proceed to the railroad terminal for Chicago. The man takes the card. He is no longer smiling. He looks uncertain, as if he has just escaped something but does not know what. He leaves. The canvas bag bounces against his leg as he walks toward the exit corridor. You do not reach for your pocket. The notebook will not record this case. The notebook only records the cases where you could not ask the question twice. The cases where the circumstances were clear, the violation was obvious, and you admitted them anyway, because the alternative was morally unacceptable even though it was legally required. Kazimierz Wojcik is not in the notebook, because Kazimierz Wojcik does not need to be in the notebook. You gave him a second chance to answer the trap question, and he took it. The record will show that he answered correctly. No detention, no hearing, no violation. This is the space between the law and the work. Most of the time you operate in the space. You ask clarifying questions. You guide immigrants toward the answers that will admit them, without technically violating the statute. You interpret the regulation in the way that produces the result you believe is correct. Sometimes the space does not exist. Sometimes the facts are clear, and the law is explicit and there is no room for interpretation. Those cases go in the notebook. You have processed 288 cases today. 43 cases in 6 months went into the notebook. Thousands of other cases, maybe tens of thousands across 11 years, you handled in the space between. Nobody teaches you how to operate in that space. It is not part of inspector training. It is something you learn by watching other inspectors, by noticing which questions they ask twice, and which answers they do not fully record, by understanding that the job has 2 levels, the visible work of processing cases at quota speed, and the invisible work of deciding when the quota speed should not determine the outcome. Most inspectors process their quota and go home. A smaller number process their quota and also maintain the space. An even smaller number keep a written record of the times they stepped outside the space entirely. You are the third category. You do not know why you keep the notebook. It serves no practical purpose. It is evidence against you. If Morrison finds it, your career ends. If the Bureau finds it, you face criminal charges. You keep it anyway. The clock reads 2:51 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 24 minutes. You signal for case 289. Case 289 is a young Italian woman with an infant. Case 290 is a Russian man traveling alone. Case 291 is a family of 5 from Slovakia. You process them in sequence: name, age, occupation, money, destination, sponsor, contract question, health, literacy, politics. The questions do not change. The answers follow predictable patterns. Most people have $20 to $40. Most people are going to cities where immigrant populations from their region already exist. Most people have a relative waiting. Most people, when asked about contract labor, either say no immediately or hesitate long enough that you can ask a clarifying question that guides them to no. By 3 p.m. you have processed 294 cases. The sun is still coming through the arched windows at the angle that reaches your desk. The Great Hall sounds like 23 languages spoken simultaneously by people who have not slept in a bed for 2 weeks. The volume is constant. It does not rise or fall. It is the sound of 747 people compressed into a space designed for 5,000 waiting. Sophia has been standing beside you for 5.5 hours. She does not sit. Interpreters do not get chairs. She shifts her weight occasionally from one foot to the other, a small movement you notice only because you have worked beside her for 6 months. She translates Polish, Russian, Ukrainian, and Yiddish without pause. When an immigrant speaks a language she does not know, she signals for a replacement interpreter from the pool that floats between stations. The replacement arrives, translates one case, then returns to the pool. Sophia remains. You do not know where Sophia lives. You do not know if she has family in New York. You do not know what she does when her shift ends at 6 p.m. You know she translates the meaning rather than the words. You know she pauses half a second longer on certain rejections. You know she has never asked you about the notebook, and you have never asked her whether she keeps her own record. At 3:08 p.m. you check your watch. Morrison begins his rotation in 7 minutes. Your processing rate today is 294 cases in 7 hours and 8 minutes, which equals approximately 41 cases per hour. The Bureau's minimum requirement is 33 cases per hour. You are above quota. Your documentation has no errors that would trigger a compliance review. Your admission rate is 96%, which matches the station average. On paper, you are exactly the kind of inspector who does not require supervisory attention. Morrison does not care about paper. Morrison watches hands. He watches interview rhythm. He watches for behavioral anomalies that indicate an inspector is thinking about something other than the case in front of them. The tells are small. A pause before asking a required question, a glance away from the ledger at the wrong moment, a repeated gesture that serves no procedural function. You reach for your left coat pocket once per hour when you stretch your writing hand. It is not a conscious decision. It is a habit formed over 6 months of carrying something that should not be there. The gesture lasts less than 2 seconds. Your hand touches the fabric above the pocket. You do not remove the notebook. You do not open your coat. You simply confirm the notebook is where it should be, and then you return to the interview. You have done this approximately 13 times today. The next time will be around 3:40 p.m., which is within the window when Morrison will be standing behind you. You know this. You have known it since 2:40 p.m. You have been thinking about it in the space between cases, in the moment after you hand the admission card to an immigrant, and before you signal for the next case. The thought is always the same. Do not reach for your pocket while Morrison is watching. The problem is that the gesture is not conscious. You do not decide to reach for your pocket. You simply do it, the same way you blink or shift your weight or breathe. Telling yourself not to do it is like telling yourself not to blink. The command creates awareness, and awareness creates hesitation, and hesitation is itself a tell. At 3:12 p.m., a uniform appears at the edge of your vision. You do not look up. You finish recording the answer to question 22 for case 295. A German man traveling to Milwaukee. The uniform moves past Station 7 and continues towards Station 8. It is not Morrison. It is a floor supervisor doing a routine check of the detention pen near the south wall. You complete case 295. You signal for case 296. At 3:15 p.m., Morrison begins his rotation at Station 5. You do not see him. Station 5 is 3 positions to your left, separated by the wire mesh barriers and the flow of immigrants moving between interview desks and exit corridors. But you know he is there because the rotation schedule is posted in the inspector's ready room every morning, and Morrison's rotation on Wednesday, April 17th, begins at 3:15 p.m. and covers stations 5 through 9. Station 5, Station 6, Station 7. You process case 296. A Hungarian woman, age 28, traveling with 2 children to join her husband in Cleveland. No chalk marks. $31. No contract. Literate in Hungarian. You admit her in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Case 297. A Polish man, age 53, traveling alone to Pittsburgh. Chalk mark on his right shoulder. L for lameness. The chalk mark means he was flagged during the staircase inspection for a visible limp. L marks are common. Most are admitted after the inspector confirms the condition is not chronic and does not prevent the immigrant from working. You ask the man to walk from the barrier to your desk and back. He walks. The limp is slight. You record. Limp minor. Gait functional. Admitted. You stamp the card. Case 298. A Russian family, 5 people, traveling to a town in North Dakota you have never heard of. The father has $17. This is below the minimum, but the family has a sponsor letter from a farmer who is paying their rail fare from New York. Sponsored immigrants are exempt from the money requirement. You verify the letter. You admit them. At 3:24 p.m., Morrison finishes his observation at Station 5 and moves to Station 6. You process Case 299, Case 300, Case 301. The 2-minute window is a rhythm you can maintain for hours without conscious thought. Ask the question. Record the answer. Move to the next question. The interview is a script. You have performed the script approximately 190,000 times in 11 years. The words come automatically. Your hand writes without deliberate intent. The work is mechanical until the moment it is not. At 3:32 p.m. Morrison arrives at Station 7. You do not turn around. You are in the middle of Case 302. A young Polish woman traveling to Chicago. Sophia is translating the answer to question 12. Can you read and write? The woman says yes. Sophia asks her to demonstrate. The woman reads a sentence from a card printed in Polish. Sophia confirms. You record. Literate. Morrison stands behind you and to your right, approximately 6 feet back from your chair. You do not see him. You hear his presence in the small change in the Great Hall's acoustic signature. The way a body standing still creates a pocket of silence in the multilingual murmur. You feel his presence in the awareness that someone is watching your hands move across the ledger, watching the rhythm of your questions, watching for the behavioral pattern that indicates you are hiding something. You continue the interview. Question 13. Are you an anarchist? No. Question 14. Are you a polygamist? No. Question 15. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? No. You do not reach for your pocket. You complete Case 302. You stamp the admission card. You hand it to the woman. She takes it and leaves. You signal for Case 303. Morrison does not move. He is still there, 6 feet behind you, watching. Case 303 is a Hungarian man, age 36, traveling alone to Cleveland. No chalk marks. $29. You process the case in 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Morrison remains. Case 304, Case 305, Case 306. Your writing hand is beginning to tire. It is 3:39 p.m. You have been writing continuously since 7 a.m., with 2 10-minute breaks. The muscle between your thumb and forefinger aches in the specific way that comes from holding a pen for 8 hours. Normally, at this point in the hour, you would stretch your hand and reach for your pocket in the same unconscious gesture you have performed 13 times today. You do not reach for your pocket. You finish Case 306. You signal for Case 307. Morrison is still behind you. The interview continues. Name, age, occupation, money, destination. The questions do not change. Your hand writes, the pen scratches. Case 307 becomes Case 308. Case 308 becomes case 309. At 3:44 p.m., Morrison moves to station 8. You do not turn to watch him leave. You are in the middle of question 18 for case 309. The immigrant is answering. Sophia is translating. You record the answer. You continue to question 19. The muscle in your writing hand still aches. You finish case 309. You set down the pen. You stretch your hand, spreading the fingers and rotating the wrist. You do not reach for your pocket. Not because Morrison might still be watching. Because you have just realized that the gesture, the small unconscious confirmation that the notebook is still there, serves no purpose. You know the notebook is in your pocket. It has not moved. It will not move. Touching the fabric above the pocket does not protect you. It does not reduce the risk. It only creates a behavioral pattern that someone like Morrison can detect and record and include in a compliance report that asks why Registry Inspector Thomas Johnson reaches for his left coat pocket 13 times per shift. You pick up the pen. You signal for case 310. The afternoon light is beginning to shift. It is 3:47 p.m. The sun no longer reaches your desk directly. The great hall is moving into the softer light of late afternoon, the hour when shadows lengthen, and the volume of 11,747 voices seems to drop slightly, though the actual sound has not changed. You have processed 310 cases. You will process approximately 117 more before your shift ends at 6 p.m. Morrison's rotation will finish at 4:45 p.m. He will spend 8 minutes at station 8, then 6 minutes at station 9, then he will leave the floor and file his observations in the supervisor's office. You do not know what he recorded. You will not know until the weekly compliance reports are issued on Monday. If your name appears in the report, you will be called to the supervisor's office for a documentation review. The review will examine your ledgers, your admission rates, your processing times, and any notes Morrison included about behavioral anomalies. If Morrison's notes mention a repetitive hand gesture, the review will ask you to explain the gesture. If you cannot explain the gesture, the review will ask you to empty your pockets. You process case 310, then case 311. The work continues. The notebook remains in your pocket, pressed against your ribs through the coat fabric, adding no weight but occupying every thought in the space between questions. The 2-minute window is a rhythm. You have maintained the rhythm for 11 years. You will maintain it for 117 more cases. And then you will go home, and the notebook will go with you, and tomorrow you will return to station 7 at 7 a.m., and the rhythm will begin again. The Hungarian woman in front of you has been standing at station 7 for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You know this because you can see the clock above station 5 from where you sit, and you noted the position of the minute hand when Sophia called her forward. Name, you say. Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia turns back to you. She says Anna Kovacs. Sophia says. You write it. The pen moves at the same speed it has moved for 288 cases today. The registry book does not care that Morrison begins his rotation in 33 minutes. The registry book requires the same information regardless of who is watching you collect it. Age. She says 31. You write 31. The woman's hands are folded at her waist. She is not moving them. This is good. People who keep their hands still during interviews do not give inspectors reasons to look more closely at what their hands have been doing. Married or single? She says married. Husband's name? Sophia asks. The woman answers. There is a pause you can measure, not long, perhaps half a second. Then Sophia says, she says Janos Kovacs. He came 2 years ago. He works in a steel mill in Pennsylvania. You write Janos Kovacs, Pennsylvania, steel mill. The woman is not looking at you. She is looking at the space slightly to your left, which means she is looking at nothing. which means she is waiting for this to be over. Everyone who stands at station 7 is waiting for this to be over. The difference is whether they are waiting for admission or waiting for deportation, and you are the person who decides which kind of waiting they are doing. Do you have his address? Sophia translates. The woman reaches into a cloth bag hanging from her shoulder. She produces a letter. The envelope has been opened and refolded many times. She hands it to Sophia. Sophia reads the return address aloud. You write it in the registry book. Allegheny County. The address exists. This is also good. Any children traveling with you? She says 2. A boy, age 8. A girl, age 5. You look past the woman. 2 children are standing 6 feet behind her in the roped section, where family groups wait after medical inspection. The boy is holding the girl's hand. Neither of them is moving. You return to the registry book. Do you read and write? She says yes. Hungarian only. You make a note. Literacy in native language satisfies the requirement. The law does not require English literacy for admission. It requires only that the immigrant is not likely to become a public charge, which is a phrase that means the state will not have to feed them, because they cannot feed themselves. Occupation? Sophia asks. The woman answers. Sophia pauses again. Then she says seamstress. You write seamstress. This is the moment where the interview could become complicated. Seamstress is an occupation that exists in America, which means there are American seamstresses who might object to Hungarian seamstresses taking work that American seamstresses believe belongs to them. But seamstress is also an occupation that does not require a contract, which means you do not have to ask the contract labor question that determines whether someone has violated the Alien Contract Labor Law of 1885 by promising to work for a specific employer before arriving in the United States. The Hungarian woman has been standing at station 7 for 4 minutes and 18 seconds now. You have 11 more questions. The average interview lasts 6 to 8 minutes when nothing is complicated. This one is not complicated, not yet. Money, you say. Sophia translates. The woman reaches into her bag again. She produces a small cloth purse. She opens it. Inside are American bills. She counts them on the desk in front of you without being asked. $17. You write $17 in the registry book. Who paid for your passage? She says her husband sent money. How much did your passage cost? Sophia asks. The woman answers. Sophia says, she says $23 for her and the children together. You do not write this down, it is not a required field. But you have done the mathematics. $17 remaining from $23 sent, means the husband sent $40 total. A steel mill worker in Pennsylvania earns approximately $2 per day. $40 is 20 days of wages. A man who can save 20 days of wages in 2 years is not likely to become a public charge. You look at the woman. She is still looking at the space to your left. Her hands are still folded at her waist. The boy and girl behind her have not moved. Have you ever been in prison or an almshouse? She says no. Are you an anarchist? She says no. Are you a polygamist? She says no. The last 3 questions are required by regulation. You ask them in every interview. In 287 interviews today, no one has answered yes. This is because people who are anarchists or polygamists or have been in prison do not announce these facts to immigration inspectors. But the law requires you to ask. So you ask. The Hungarian woman has been standing at station 7 for 6 minutes and 14 seconds. You have 2 questions remaining. Final destination. Sophia translates. The woman says something. Sophia says, she says Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, her husband's address. You write it again. Repetition is acceptable. Certainty is required. Do you have a ticket for the railroad? The woman reaches into her bag a third time. She produces 3 tickets. Pittsburgh. You examine them. They are dated for today. You hand them back. The interview is complete. You reach for the admission card. You fill in the woman's name, the destination, the date. You stamp it. You hand it to her. Sophia tells her she may go. The woman takes the card. She does not smile. She turns and walks back to where the children are standing. She takes the girl's hand. The boy follows. They move toward the staircase that leads down to the railroad waiting room. Case 289 is complete. You do not add her name to the notebook. There was no reason to add her name to the notebook. She met every requirement. The law did not require you to choose between regulation and mercy. The law simply required you to process her correctly, and you did. You signal for case 290. The clock above station 5 shows 2:49 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 26 minutes. You hear his voice once from across the hall speaking to an inspector at station 3. The words are indistinct, but the tone is not. It is the tone of a man asking a question he already knows the answer to. Case 290 is an Italian man traveling alone to Boston. Case 291 is a German family of 4 traveling to Chicago. Case 292 is a Swedish woman traveling to Minnesota to join her sister. Case 293 is a Greek man traveling to New York City with $7, and the address of a coffeehouse on Mulberry Street where other Greek men gather. You process them in sequence. Each interview follows the same structure: name, age, married or single, occupation, money, destination, prison, anarchist, polygamist. The questions do not change. The law does not provide alternate questions for people you personally find more interesting or more deserving. Case 294 is a Russian man who says he is a carpenter. He has $12 and a ticket to Philadelphia. You ask him to demonstrate how he holds a saw. He mimes the motion. His hands move in the correct positions. You admit him. Case 295 is a Polish woman traveling with 3 children under the age of 6. Her husband died on the crossing. She has $6 and the address of a cousin in Detroit. You ask her occupation. Sophia translates. The woman says she does not have an occupation. You ask if the cousin is expecting her. She says yes. You ask if the cousin can support her and the children until she finds work. She says yes. You write likely to become a public charge. NO in the notes field. You admit her. The law does not require that immigrants have living husbands. It requires that they will not require public assistance. A cousin who expects you and can support you satisfies the requirement. Whether this is a good system is not a question the Bureau of Immigration has asked you to answer. Case 296 is a Jewish man from Minsk who speaks Yiddish. Sophia does not speak Yiddish. You signal for the Yiddish interpreter. She is stationed at station 9. She walks over. The interview pauses for 45 seconds while she arrives. This happens 6 or 7 times per day. The Great Hall has interpreters for Italian, German, Yiddish, Polish, Hungarian, Greek, Russian, and Croatian. It does not have interpreters for Bulgarian, Serbian, Arabic, Armenian, or Finnish. When someone arrives who speaks only those languages, you signal for Sophia anyway, and she attempts to communicate using the few words of German or Russian that sometimes overlap. This works approximately 60% of the time. The Yiddish interpreter asks the man the questions you provide. He answers. She translates. He is a tailor. He has $18. He is going to the Lower East Side, where his brother owns a shop. You admit him. The Yiddish interpreter returns to station 9. You check the clock. 2:57 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 18 minutes. Case 297 is a Lithuanian woman traveling to Baltimore. Case 298 is an Austrian man traveling to Cleveland. Case 299 is a Hungarian man traveling to Pittsburgh who has $11 and says he is a minor. which is an occupation that exists in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh sits on top of coal. Between cases you hear the sound of the Great Hall continuing around you. Station 5 is processing a family with 6 children. Station 6 is processing a man who is arguing about his documentation. Station 8 is processing a woman who is crying, which does not mean she will be rejected, but which does mean the inspector at Station 8 is having a more difficult day than you are having. The ferry horn sounds from the harbor. Another load has arrived at the island. The new arrivals are in the baggage room now. In 30 minutes they will be climbing the stairs to medical inspection. In 60 minutes, they will be standing in the registry hall waiting to be called forward to the stations. The 11,747 people in the building today is not a fixed number. It is a rolling count that replaces itself every 3 to 4 hours. Case 300 is an Irish girl, 16 years old, traveling alone to join her aunt in Boston. You ask her to read a passage from a card printed in English. She reads it haltingly. She can read. You ask her occupation. She says domestic service. You admit her. Domestic service is the single most common occupation for Irish women arriving at Ellis Island. The law does not object to this. The Great Hall is loud in a way that is not loud if you have been sitting in it for 7 hours and 37 minutes. The voices accumulate, they do not rise or fall. They continue. Someone is always speaking. Someone is always waiting. Someone is always holding a child who does not understand why they are standing in a room with 2,000 other people, and why they cannot sit down. You do not look at the child, you look at the next case. Case 301 is a Romanian man traveling to Chicago with $9 and a letter from a friend who works in the stockyards. The letter is in Romanian. You cannot read it. Sophia cannot read it. You ask him if he has work waiting. He says no. You ask him if he can work if no specific job is available. He says yes. You admit him. The law prohibits contract labor. It does not prohibit men traveling to cities where stockyards exist and men are required to work in them. You check the clock. 3:04 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 11 minutes. Across the hall you see him now. He is standing at Station 4, notebook open, watching Inspector Hendricks conduct an interview. Hendricks. Hands are moving normally. Morrison writes nothing. After 40 seconds, Morrison moves to Station 5. You reach into your left coat pocket with your right hand. You adjust the notebook without removing it. This takes 1 second. It is a motion you have made 6 or 7 times today, and approximately 45 times per week for the past 6 months. It is not suspicious. It is the motion of a man checking that something is still in his pocket. Everyone checks that things are still in their pockets. You return your hand to the desk. You signal for Case 302. Case 302 is a Polish woman, maybe 35, traveling with 1 child. The child is a boy, approximately 4 years old. He is holding his mother's hand. You can see them both clearly from where you sit. Name, you say. Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia says, she says Marta Vorchik. You write Marta Vorchik. The woman is watching you write. Most immigrants do not watch the registry book. Most immigrants watch the space slightly to your left or slightly to your right. This woman is watching the pen. Age. She says 36. Married or single? There is a pause. The woman says something. Sophia translates. She says widowed. You write widowed in the column. Widowed is not the same as married. Widowed is not the same as single. Widowed is its own category. You continue. Husband's name. She says Stefan Warchik. When did he die? Sophia asks. The woman answers. Sophia says, she says 8 months ago. You write this in the notes field. 8 months ago puts the death in August of 1906. You do not ask how he died. This is not a required question. but the woman is speaking again without being asked. Sophia listens. Then Sophia says, "She says he worked in a coal mine in Pennsylvania. There was an accident. He is buried there." You write coal mine, accident, Pennsylvania. The woman is still watching the pen. Occupation? Sophia asks. The woman answers. Sophia says, "She says none. She says she took care of the house." You write no occupation in the registry book. This is not ideal. A widowed woman with no occupation and one child is a formula the law recognizes as likely to become a public charge. You continue with the required questions anyway. Money. The woman reaches into a bag. She produces a small cloth purse. She opens it. She counts $5 onto the desk. $5 is not enough. The regulation does not state a specific minimum, but $5 is not enough to travel from New York Harbor to Pennsylvania and sustain yourself while finding work. You have admitted people with $5 before. You have admitted people with less than $5 before. But those people had waiting employment or family who could support them immediately upon arrival. Who paid for your passage? Sophia asks. The woman answers. Sophia says she says the church in her village took a collection. You write church collection. This is not unusual. Churches in villages across Europe take collections to send people to America. The church does this because it believes America is a better place for people than the villages. The church is often correct. Final destination. The woman reaches into the bag again. She produces a letter. It has been folded and unfolded many times. The envelope is worn at the corners. She hands it to Sophia. Sophia reads the return address aloud. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Who is the letter from, you ask? Sophia asks the woman. The woman answers. Sophia says she says it is from her husband's cousin. He works in the same mine. He says she can come and he will help her find work. You write Scranton, husband's cousin, mine. This is better. A waiting relative improves the case. But a cousin is not a husband. A cousin is not required by law to support you. Does the cousin say he will support you until you find work? Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia listens carefully. Then Sophia says, she says he will help her. She says she will find work quickly. This is not the same as saying yes. You know this. Sophia knows this. The woman knows this. You look at the woman. She is still watching the pen. The boy is standing beside her. He is not moving. He has the stillness of a child who has learned that staying quiet is important. Can you read and write? She says yes. Polish only. Do you have a ticket for the railroad? The woman produces a ticket. Scranton. You examine it. It is dated for today. You hand it back. You have reached the point in the interview where the decision is required. A widowed Polish woman with $5, no occupation, and a letter from a cousin who has offered to help but not specifically to support her. The law would call this likely to become a public charge. The law would detain her for a Board of Special Inquiry hearing. The board would ask the same questions you have asked. The cousin would be required to appear as a witness or submit an affidavit of support. The hearing would take 3 days minimum. The woman and child would wait in the detention dormitory. Or you admit her, and the record shows that Inspector Johnson determined she was not likely to become a public charge, based on the waiting relative and the stated intention to find work. You look at Sophia. Sophia is looking at the woman. The woman is looking at you now, not at the pen, at you. You reach for the admission card. You fill in the name, the destination, the date. You stamp it. You hand it to the woman. Sophia tells her she may go. The woman takes the card. Her hand closes around it. She does not say anything. She takes the boy's hand. They walk toward the staircase. You do not add her name to the notebook, you admitted her through the standard process. The decision was yours to make, you made it. But you know that if Morrison had been standing behind you during that interview, you would not have reached for the admission card. You would have reached for the detention form. Because Morrison's notebook would have recorded that Inspector Johnson admitted a widowed woman with $5 and no occupation, and Morrison's weekly report would have flagged it as a procedural irregularity, and Commissioner Watchorn would have called you to his office to explain why you believed the law did not apply. You signal for case 303. The clock above Station 5 shows 3:12 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 3 minutes. You can see him at Station 6 now, 30 feet away, standing slightly behind Inspector Chen. He is not writing, he is watching Chen's hands. The clock reads 3:02 p.m. Henderson works Station 6, 18 feet to your left. You've watched him process cases for 7 months now. He asks the same 29 questions you ask. He stamps the same forms. He maintains the same rate, 412 cases per day, average. The difference is that Henderson does not carry a notebook in his left coat pocket. Henderson stands when Morrison passes behind him, not immediately, not with any visible concern. He stands, stretches his shoulders, makes a small notation on his current manifest, then sits again. Morrison observes this. Morrison's notebook remains closed. Henderson's interview rhythm does not change. The Hungarian family at Station 6 receives their admission stamps 40 seconds later. This is what compliance looks like when you have nothing to hide. You signal for case 303. Case 303 is an Italian man, maybe 28, traveling alone to Boston. He carries a single canvas bag and wears a coat that fits him properly. The medical inspection found nothing, no chalk marks. He has $23 in documented funds and a confirmed address with a cousin who works in a shoe factory. Final destination: Boston. Sophia translates. The man answers in Italian that runs together without breaks. Occupation in Italy: stonemason. She says he worked on church repairs in Napoli for 6 years. Employment waiting in Boston. The man shakes his head before Sophia finishes the question. No. He says his cousin will help him find work, but nothing is arranged yet. You make the notation: no contract labor violation. The funds are sufficient for 2 months if he's careful. The cousin's address has appeared in your records 4 times in the past year. Stable, documented, no previous removals traced to that location. You stamp the manifest. Admitted. Case 303 picks up his bag and moves toward the railroad ticket window. Henderson signals for his next case. Morrison has moved to Station 8 now. You can see him standing behind Inspector Chen, watching Chen's hands, as Chen processes a Polish family of 3. Morrison's pen moves twice in the notebook. Chen does not see this. Chen continues his interview without variation, but something in his posture has changed. Shoulders slightly higher, chin slightly forward. Morrison watches for another 90 seconds, then moves to Station 9. The clock reads 3:09 p.m. You reach into your left coat pocket. Your hand finds the notebook immediately. You do not remove it. You stretch your writing hand, flex the fingers twice, return your hand to the desk. The notebook adds no weight to your pocket. Its presence is what Morrison would call a behavioral anomaly if he were standing behind you instead of behind Chen. Morrison will reach Station 7 in approximately 23 minutes. Sophia is speaking to someone in the queue behind your station, a woman with 2 children. Polish by the sound of it. The older child, maybe 8 years old, is crying quietly. The woman keeps one hand on the child's shoulder. Sophia's voice is level, neither warm nor cold. She is explaining the order of processing. The woman nods. There are 427 people being processed at Station 7 today. The number comes from this morning's manifest count. The building holds 747 people total, across all stations. These numbers do not include inspectors, interpreters, or matrons. They do not include Morrison. You signal for Case 304. Case 304 is two sisters from Slovakia. 26 and 19 by the medical examiner's notation. They stand together at your desk with identical posture, hands folded, weight slightly forward, eyes fixed on a point just past your left shoulder. The elder wears a grey wool dress that has been mended at both elbows. The younger wears a brown dress that fits poorly, too large through the shoulders, likely borrowed or inherited. Names. Sophia translates. The elder answers for both. Marta Kovac, her sister is Elena. You make the notation. The manifest shows Pittsburgh as their destination. Uncle's family. Textile mill work likely, though nothing is confirmed in the documentation. Final destination. Pittsburgh. The uncle lives on 21st Street. She has the address written down. Occupation in Slovakia. The elder answers immediately. The younger remains silent. Farm work. Potatoes mostly. Some wheat. She says they worked the family holding for 6 years after their father died. Employment waiting in Pittsburgh? The elder hesitates. Her eyes shift to her sister for the first time, then back to you. No, the uncle will help them find work. He sent money for passage, but no specific employment is arranged. The medical report shows no chalk marks. The fund's notation reads $18, documented. Sufficient for rail passage and perhaps 3 weeks after arrival if they spend carefully. You look at the younger sister. She has not spoken. Her hands remain folded, but the knuckles have gone white. Ask the younger sister her name. Sophia switches to Slovak. The question is simple. The younger sister does not answer. The elder sister speaks instead rapidly in Slovak. Sophia listens, nods once, then turns back to you. She says her sister is frightened. The boat journey was difficult. Elena does not speak in crowds. This is not unusual. You have processed 46 cases this month, where one family member does not speak during inspection. Fear, exhaustion, language barriers compounded by stress. The medical examiner found no mental impairment notation. The chalk codes on both women show clear passage through health screening. But Morrison notices patterns. Morrison notices when an inspector processes a case without hearing both individuals speak. Morrison calls this a documentation gap. Ask her what month she was born. Sophia translates. The younger sister looks at her older sister. The elder starts to speak. No, you say. The younger sister answers. Sophia repeats the question in Slovak, more slowly. The younger sister's mouth opens. She takes a breath. No sound comes. Her hands tighten further. The elder sister reaches for her arm. The family behind them in queue is shifting. An old man with a cane. A woman holding an infant. The line pressure is building. Station 6 has processed 3 cases since case 304 arrived at your desk. The clock reads 3:14 p.m. Morrison is at Station 9 7 stations away. His rotation pattern puts him at Station 7 in approximately 18 minutes. You look at the younger sister's hands. The knuckles are white but the fingers are not trembling. You look at her eyes. They are fixed on the desk now, not on the point past your shoulder. Ask her what work she did on the farm. Sophia translates. The younger sister's shoulders shift slightly. Her mouth opens again. Kartofle, she says. Potatoes. The word is barely audible, but it is present. You make the notation on the manifest. Both applicants responsive to questioning. You write. You stamp the form. Admitted. The elder sister exhales. The younger sister's hands loosen. They collect their single shared trunk and move toward the railroad ticket window together. Sophia is already signaling the next case forward. The old man with the cane steps up to your desk. Henderson, at station 6, has stood up again. He stretches, makes a notation, sits. Morrison is still at station 9. Morrison's notebook is open now. He is writing something while Inspector Warren continues processing a German family of 4. You do not reach for your left coat pocket. You signal for case 305. Case 305 is a German man, 41 years old, traveling alone to Newark. He has the build of someone who works with his hands. Forearms thick, shoulders broad, fingers scarred across the knuckles. The medical report shows no chalk marks. The funds notation reads $46, documented and verified by the steamship line. Final destination: Newark, New Jersey. Sophia translates. The man answers in German that is slower than the Italian from case 303, each word separated with deliberate space. Occupation in Germany: machinist. He worked at a tool and die factory in Düsseldorf for 19 years. This is different from case 303, skilled labor. Documented experience: the kind of case that processes cleanly unless something in the paperwork creates friction. Employment: waiting in Newark. The man reaches into his coat and produces a folded letter. The paper is worn at the creases, handled many times. He unfolds it carefully and places it on your desk. The letterhead reads Essex Manufacturing Company, Newark, New Jersey. The letter is dated 4 months ago. It is in English. You read it once. The company is offering employment contingent on successful passage through immigration inspection. The position is journeyman machinist. The wage is noted as competitive for the region. The letter is signed by someone named Albert Crawford, shop supervisor. This is a contract labor offer. Contract labor violates the Alien Contract Labor Law of 1885. The German man is holding documented proof of a pre-arranged employment agreement. You read the letter again. The letter does not promise employment. The letter offers employment contingent on successful immigration. The language is precise. Should you arrive in good health and clear all requirements is not the same as we have hired you. Contract labor law requires proof of binding agreement before arrival. This letter establishes possibility, not certainty. The distinction matters. You look at the German man. He is watching you read. His hands rest flat on the desk, relaxed. He has presented the letter because he believes it helps his case. He does not know what contract labor law means in practice. Ask him if he paid any money to the company in Germany. Sophia translates. The man shakes his head immediately. No. Ask him if anyone paid money on his behalf for this work opportunity. Sophia translates. The man shakes his head again. He answers in German, that runs longer than the question. No. He says the letter came from his brother-in-law who works at the same factory. The brother-in-law wrote to the supervisor, and the supervisor sent this letter. No money was involved. No agent, just family connection. You make the notation. Employment offer contingent on arrival. No binding agreement documented. No payment for opportunity. Family referral confirmed. This does not violate contract labor law. This is how immigration is supposed to work. Skills, connections, opportunities, waiting but not guaranteed. You have processed 18 similar cases this month. All were admitted. You stamp the manifest. Admitted. The German man folds the letter carefully and returns it to his coat. He picks up his single leather bag and moves toward the railroad ticket window, without looking back. Case 305 took 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is longer than average, but within normal range for skilled labor documentation review. The clock reads 3:21 p.m. Morrison is no longer at Station 9. You can see him standing between Stations 8 and 7 now, not behind any specific inspector, just observing the room from the center aisle. His notebook is closed. His hands are empty. He is watching the flow of cases across multiple stations simultaneously. Henderson is processing a Russian family at Station 6. The family has 4 children, all under 12. Henderson's interview rhythm is steady. The children are restless but controlled. One of the older children is holding the youngest, who appears to be sleeping. Sophia has already signaled the next case forward. An Italian woman, maybe 30, traveling alone. She carries a cloth bundle tied with rope, and wears a black dress that marks her as widowed. Morrison is 11 stations away. His rotation pattern is no longer predictable. He has stopped following the numerical sequence from 5 to 9. He is moving based on observation now, selecting stations based on criteria you cannot see. You reach for your pen. Your hand does not move toward your left coat pocket. You signal for case 306. Case 304 is a Russian man, 38 years old, traveling alone to Chicago. He answers the first 7 questions without incident. Name, age, occupation, money, destination, sponsor, contract, labor. The answers match the manifest. The money count is correct. The employment statement checks. You reach question 8. Do you support or advocate the overthrow of the United States government by force or violence? The interpreter translates. The man answers. The interpreter translates back. He says no. You write no in the political beliefs column. The man picks up his bag and moves toward the railroad ticket window. The anarchist question appears on every registry form. It was added after President McKinley's assassination in 1901, when Congress decided that preventing anarchist immigration was a matter of national security. The Anarchist Exclusion Act specifies that any immigrant who admits to anarchist beliefs or membership in organizations that advocate violent overthrow of government is inadmissible and subject to immediate deportation. The question is mandatory. The answer is recorded. The system presumes the answer is truthful. What the system does not account for is that no anarchist traveling 3,000 miles to reach American soil answers yes to that question. The man who genuinely believes in the violent overthrow of governments knows that admitting it at Ellis Island means deportation on the next available steamer. The question exists to create legal documentation, not to identify actual anarchists. You are asking people to self-report their inadmissibility, and you are required to accept their answers as fact, unless you have documentary evidence to contradict them. You have processed approximately 190,000 cases over 11 years. You have asked the anarchist question 190,000 times. You have received exactly 0 affirmative answers. The question works like airport security in the 21st century. Not because it catches the thing it's designed to catch, but because it creates a paper trail that proves the system asked. The man who later commits a crime can be prosecuted for lying on his immigration form. The inspector who failed to ask the question can be prosecuted for negligence. Everyone is covered, and nobody is safe, and the Great Hall continues processing 400 cases per day because that is what the regulation requires. You signal for case 305. The clock reads 3:04 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation in 11 minutes. Case 305 is a Polish woman, 29 years old, traveling with 2 children to Pittsburgh. She has $23. She is joining her husband, who works in a steel mill. The children are 4 and 6, both passed medical inspection, no chalk marks. The woman's name is on the husband's arrival letter, dated 3 weeks ago. The letter specifies the address. The letter specifies the employment. Everything checks. You ask the contract labor question. She says no. You ask the anarchist question. She says no. You ask if she can read. She reads the required sentence in Polish. Sophia translates. The woman read it correctly. You stamp the form. Admitted. The woman gathers the children and moves toward the railroad ticket window. The 4-year-old is carrying a cloth doll with a missing arm. Case 306 is a German man, 41, traveling alone to Newark, factory worker. $28. Sponsor letter from a brother who arrived 2 years ago. No chalk marks. The man answers every question in sequence. Contract labor. No anarchist beliefs. No. Literacy. Yes. He reads the German test sentence without hesitation. You stamp the form. The man picks up his bag. He nods once before turning away. The clock reads 3:09 p.m. 6 minutes. The woman at station 9 is crying again. You can hear it from here. Not loud, but persistent. The sound of someone who has been told something final and is trying to argue with finality. Her interpreter is speaking quietly. The inspector at station 9 is writing. The woman's voice rises briefly, then stops. She is led toward the detention area by a matron. Henderson is still processing at station 5. You cannot see his cases from this angle, but you can see his posture. Straight, methodical, the same position he maintains from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. without variation. Henderson does not look at the clock. He does not need to. His internal rhythm matches the regulation exactly. You check your pocket watch. 3:11 p.m. 4 minutes now. Case 307 is waiting at the line. Italian family of 5. The father is holding the youngest child, maybe 2 years old. The mother is holding the hand of a girl, 6 or 7. An older boy, 10 or 11, stands slightly behind them, watching the room. You signal them forward. The father steps up to the desk. He sets the child down. The child immediately tries to climb back up. The mother picks her up and holds her on one hip, while keeping her grip on the 6-year-old's hand. The older boy stays exactly where he is. You begin the interview. Name, age, occupation. The father answers. The interpreter translates. Tinsmith. Destination, Boston. Money count, $17. The amount matches the manifest notation. Who are you traveling to meet? The interpreter translates. The father pulls a letter from his coat pocket and hands it across the desk. You read it. The letter is from a cousin in Boston. The letter confirms employment at a metalworking shop. The letter includes the shop's address. The handwriting is clear. The signature is legible. You hand the letter back. Have you been offered employment prior to arrival in the United States? The father answers no. The answer is probably not true. The letter effectively constitutes a job offer, but the contract labor law contains enough ambiguity that most inspectors accept this answer and move forward. You write no in the contract labor column. You ask the anarchist question. The father says no. You ask the literacy question. The father reads the Italian test sentence correctly. You examine the medical notations. No chalk marks on any family member. The 6-year-old has a notation for alert and responsive. The 2-year-old has a notation for active, no concerns. Everything checks. You stamp the form 5 times, once for each family member. The father picks up the 2-year-old. The mother keeps holding the 6-year-old's hand. The older boy follows them toward the railroad ticket window without being told. The clock reads 3:14 p.m. Morrison arrives on schedule. He does not announce himself. Morrison never does. You become aware of him the way you become aware of a change in air pressure, a presence at the edge of your peripheral vision, silent, observing. You do not turn around. Turning signals awareness, and awareness signals concern, and concern under Morrison's observation becomes a mark in the leather notebook. You signal for case 308. The man approaches the desk. German, 34. traveling alone to Milwaukee, carpenter, $19. You begin the interview. Morrison stands 3 feet behind your left shoulder. You can hear him breathing, steady, unhurried, the rhythm of a man who has nowhere else to be for the next 90 minutes. Name? The man answers. You write. The pen moves at the same speed it has moved for 11 years. Your handwriting does not change. The angle of your wrist does not change. This is the test Morrison runs on every inspector he observes. Do your patterns shift when you know you are being watched? Morrison transferred to Ellis Island 8 months ago after exposing a bribery ring at the Boston immigration station. 4 inspectors served federal prison sentences. The story circulated through the building within a week. Morrison built his reputation on detecting behavioral anomalies, specifically repetitive hand movements that indicate concealment. He does not watch immigrants. He watches inspectors. You ask the occupation question. The man answers. You write carpenter in the occupation column. You do not adjust your grip on the pen. You do not adjust your posture. Morrison takes notes. You can hear the scratch of pencil on paper. He is recording something, you do not know what. His weekly compliance reports go directly to Commissioner Watch On. You will not see them. You will only learn what he observed if the report results in a summons to the supervisor's office. How much money are you carrying? The man counts out $19. You count it again. The amount matches. You write 19.00 in the money column. Your hand does not hesitate. Morrison's pencil scratches again. The 427 people processed at Station 7 today represent 11 years of learned rhythm. Every movement has been repeated so many times that deviation would require conscious effort. You do not deviate. You ask the contract labor question. The man says no. You ask the anarchist question. The man says no. You ask the literacy question. The man reads the German test sentence correctly. You examine the medical notation. No chalk marks. You stamp the form. Admitted. The man picks up his bag and leaves. Morrison does not move. He remains exactly where he is, 3 feet behind your left shoulder, breathing steadily. You signal for case 309. Croatian woman, 26, traveling with 1 child to Pennsylvania. The child is 18 months old. The woman has $14. She is joining her husband, who works in a coal mine. The manifest lists them both. The medical notation shows no chalk marks. You begin the interview. Morrison's pencil scratches. You do not adjust. Name? The woman answers. The interpreter translates. You write. The handwriting matches the handwriting from case 308. It matches the handwriting from every case today. Morrison knows this. He is comparing. Age? 26. You write 26 in the age column. The numeral is formed exactly as it was formed in the previous case, and the case before that, and the 427 cases processed at this station today. Morrison shifted his weight slightly. Not much, just enough to change the angle of observation. He is now watching your right hand, the hand that holds the pen. He is watching for the moment when you reach for your left coat pocket, the pocket where the notebook sits. You do not reach for it. The woman answers the remaining questions without incident. No contract labor, no anarchist beliefs. She reads the Croatian test sentence correctly. Sophia confirms the translation. You stamp the form. The woman picks up the child and moves toward the stairs. Morrison has now been standing behind you for 6 minutes. His leather notebook is open. He has written at least 4 separate observations. You know this from the number of times his pencil has scratched paper. You do not know what the observations contain. You signal for case 310. Polish man, 42, traveling alone to Detroit, machinist, $21. The interview proceeds in sequence. Name, age, occupation, money, destination, sponsor. Each answer is recorded. Each answer matches the manifest. Morrison's pencil scratches 3 more times. At 3:22 p.m. you reach for your left coat pocket. This is the movement Morrison has been waiting for. You do it once per hour, always when stretching your writing hand, always for the same reason. The notebook pages stick to each other in humid weather, and you keep a small cloth in that pocket to wipe your palms between cases. The movement takes 2 seconds. You have done it 11,000 times over 11 years. Morrison writes. The notation is longer than the previous ones. You can hear the pencil moving across the page for 5 full seconds. You return your hand to the desk. You continue the interview. The man answers the contract labor question, no. The anarchist question, no. The literacy question, yes. He reads the Polish test sentence correctly. No chalk marks. You stamp the form. Morrison closes his notebook. He does not speak. He moves to Station 8, where another inspector is processing a Hungarian family. The inspection process at Station 8 begins immediately. Morrison stands 3 feet behind that inspector's left shoulder and opens his notebook again. You signal for case 311. The clock reads 3:24 p.m. Morrison's rotation lasts 90 minutes. He will not return to Station 7 today. Case 311 is a Russian woman, 31, traveling with 3 children to Cleveland. The youngest child is 2. The oldest is 8. The woman has $16. Her husband sent a letter 3 months ago. The letter includes the address, the employment details, and a money order receipt showing he has been employed steadily since arrival. You begin the interview. The woman's hands are shaking. Not much. Just enough to notice when she counts the money. This is not unusual. Many immigrants shake when they reach the inspection desk. They have traveled 3,000 miles. They are standing in a room where 240,000 people have been rejected. Fear is a reasonable response to this process. You ask the questions in sequence. The woman answers. Everything checks. You stamp the form 4 times, once for her and once for each child. The woman picks up the 2-year-old. The 8-year-old takes the hand of the middle child. They move toward the railroad ticket window. The clock reads 3:28 p.m. You have 43 names in the notebook. Morrison has 1 new entry in his leather journal. The 747 people still waiting in the Great Hall do not know which inspectors Morrison observed, or what he recorded, or whether any of those observations will result in action. The system continues. You signal for case 312. Case 312 is a German family of 6. Father, mother, 4 children ranging from 3 to 12. The father carries the smallest child. The mother holds the hand of the second smallest. The 2 older children walk on their own, close together, watching everything. You signal them forward. The father approaches the desk. He sets the 3-year-old down. The child grabs his leg immediately and does not let go. Name? The father answers. You write. The interpreter is not needed. The father speaks enough English to answer directly. This is noted on the manifest. Immigrants who speak English move through inspection faster because translation adds time, and time adds risk. Age? 41. Occupation? Bricklayer. You write bricklayer in the occupation column. The father's hands are calloused in the specific pattern. Bricklayers develop. Thickened skin along the index finger and thumb. Slight deformation of the knuckles from repetitive gripping. The hands match the stated occupation. This matters. Inspectors are trained to notice when hands do not match the work claimed on the manifest. The 3-year-old is still holding the father's leg. The father reaches down absently and rests one hand on the child's head while answering the next question. How much money are you carrying? The father counts out $32. You count it again. The amount matches. $32 for a family of 6 traveling to Pittsburgh is slightly above average, but not suspicious. The average immigrant arrives with $18 to $25. Families tend to carry more because they cannot afford to fail. You ask the destination question, Pittsburgh. You ask the sponsor question. The father has a brother in Pittsburgh who works in construction. The brother sent a letter. The father hands it across the desk. You read the letter. It is 2 pages, written in German, dated 5 weeks ago. The brother confirms employment availability at a construction company. The brother confirms housing availability in a boarding house that accepts families. The brother includes his own address and the address of the construction company. Both addresses are in Pittsburgh's Lawrenceville neighborhood, which has a significant German immigrant population. The letter is detailed enough to be genuine and vague enough to avoid violating contract labor law. You hand the letter back. The father folds it carefully and returns it to his coat pocket. Have you been offered employment prior to arrival? No. The answer is borderline. The letter implies employment availability but does not constitute a formal job offer. You write no in the contract labor column. This is the interpretation most inspectors use. The alternative is to classify the letter as a contract violation and hold the family for a Board of Special Inquiry hearing, which would delay their entry by 3 to 7 days, and potentially result in deportation if the board interprets the letter differently. You move to the anarchist question. The father says no. You move to the literacy question. The father reads the English test sentence without hesitation. His pronunciation is German accented but clear. You check the medical notations for all 6 family members. No chalk marks. The 12-year-old has a notation for healthy, no concerns. The 9-year-old has the same notation. The 6-year-old has a notation for alert, active. The 3-year-old has a notation for observed walking, no limp, responsive to parents. Everything checks. You stamp the form 6 times. The father picks up the 3-year-old. The mother keeps holding the 6-year-old's hand. The 12-year-old and 9-year-old follow without being told. They move toward the railroad ticket window. The family will take the train to Pittsburgh tonight. They will arrive tomorrow morning. The brother will meet them at the station. The father will start work within a week if the construction company needs bricklayers. If not, he will find other work. The family will live in the boarding house until they save enough to rent their own rooms. The children will enroll in school if the city requires it, or they will work if the family needs the income. This is the pattern for most immigrants who pass inspection. Ellis Island is not the finish line, it is the starting gate. What happens next depends on factors the inspection process does not measure. The availability of work, the reliability of sponsors, the capacity to adapt to a city where most people do not speak your language, and the systems operate on rules you do not yet understand. You signal for case 313. The clock reads 3:31 p.m. Greek man, 28, traveling alone to Chicago, laborer, $17. The man's hands are calloused in the non-specific pattern common to manual labor. Thickened palms, rough fingertips, no specialized deformation. The occupation is probably accurate. You ask the standard questions. The man answers through the interpreter. Everything matches the manifest. No chalk marks. You stamp the form. The man picks up his bag and leaves. Case 314. Hungarian woman, 34, traveling with 2 children to Cleveland. $18. Husband already in Cleveland, employed at a steel mill. Letter provided, address confirmed. No chalk marks. You stamp the form 3 times. The woman leaves with both children. Case 315. Italian man, 46, traveling alone to Boston. Tailor, $24. The man's hands show the finger calluses specific to tailoring work. Small, Precise points of thickened skin from needle pressure and scissor grip. The occupation matches. No chalk marks. You stamp the form. The pattern continues. Each case takes 4 to 7 minutes depending on complexity. Families take longer than individuals. Immigrants who do not speak English take longer than those who do. Cases with irregular documentation take longer than cases where everything matches. Morrison is still at Station 8. You can see him from here if you turn your head slightly, but you do not turn your head. Turning signals awareness. You process the next case. The Great Hall contains 747 people now. The number has decreased slightly as processed immigrants move toward the railroad ticket windows and exit the building. New arrivals are not admitted to the Great Hall until space becomes available. The regulation specifies maximum occupancy. The system enforces it. You check your pocket watch. 3:38 p.m. 2 hours and 22 minutes remaining in your shift. Based on current pace, you will process between 48 and 52 more cases before 6 p.m. Station 7's daily total will reach approximately 430 to 435 cases. The building total will reach approximately 100 to 300 cases. Sophia is still interpreting at Station 6. Henderson is still processing at Station 5. Morrison is still observing at Station 8. The woman at Station 9 has stopped crying. A new case is being processed there now. You signal for case 316. Italian family of 4. The father approaches. The interview begins. You signal for case 313. Case 313 is a Russian woman, 31 years old, traveling alone to Chicago. The manifest shows she is joining a husband who arrived 6 months earlier. The husband's affidavit is 3 months old. The address listed is a tenement building on Halsted Street. Sophia translates the standard questions. The woman answers each one in sequence. Name, age, occupation, money, destination, sponsor. She has $23 in US currency. She can read Russian. She has never been convicted of a crime. Final destination. Chicago, Illinois. She will join her husband at 1847 Halsted Street. Occupation of sponsor. Factory worker, metal parts. The husband's affidavit is signed by a notary in Chicago's 19th Ward. The signature matches the name on the manifest. The amount promised for support is $8 per week. The math works. Employment waiting. No employment arranged. She will keep house. The contract labor question is straightforward. No third-party arranged employment. No advance payment received for passage. No promise of work made before departure. You stamp the manifest at 3:26 p.m. The woman picks up her bag and moves toward the stairs. Case 314 is a Polish man, 44 years old, traveling with 2 children to Pittsburgh. The children are 7 and 9. The mother died during passage. The ship's doctor certified the death at sea on April 12, 5 days ago. The burial was conducted according to regulation. The ship's log contains the entry. The father answers questions in Polish that Sophia translates with her usual precision. He has $41. He is joining a brother in Pittsburgh. The brother's affidavit shows steady employment at a steel mill. The address is verified. The children stand on either side of their father. The 7-year-old holds his hand. The 9-year-old carries a cloth bag that appears to contain clothing and nothing else. Sponsor's occupation. Steel mill worker, blast furnace crew. He has worked there for 3 years. Children's health status. Sophia asks the question. The father answers. Both children cleared medical inspection with no notations. The chalk marks show passage through all stations. You check the manifest against the medical cards. The notations match. Both children were examined at the staircase and in the Great Hall. No marks indicating concern. The father's hands rest on the table. He is not gripping anything. He is not moving, he is waiting. You stamp the manifest at 3:29 p.m. The father stands. The children follow. The 9-year-old adjusts the bag's strap across her shoulder. They move toward the stairs without looking back. Case 315 is a German family of 5 traveling to Milwaukee. Father, mother, 3 children ranging from 4 to 11. The father worked as a baker in Hamburg. He has a letter from a German bakery owner in Milwaukee, offering employment at $11 per week. The letter is dated February 1907. The bakery's address is on North 3rd Street. The contract labor question requires attention here. A letter offering employment is not the same as a contract for labor arranged before departure. The distinction matters. Employment was offered after correspondence, Sophia translates. He wrote to the bakery owner in December. The owner is his wife's cousin. The offer came in response to his inquiry. The letter is in German. You cannot read it. Sophia can. The letter states employment is available if he chooses to come to Milwaukee, no requirement to accept, no advance payment for passage. You make a notation on the manifest, not a contract, an offer made to family. You stamp the manifest at 3:33 p.m. Morrison begins his rotation at Station 5 in approximately 2 minutes. His leather notebook is already open. He will reach Station 6 in 18 minutes. Station 7 in 34 minutes. Case 316 approaches the desk. The Albanian woman carries her daughter on her left hip. The child is 18 months old according to the manifest. The woman is 24. She is traveling to Detroit, where her husband works in an automobile parts factory. The husband's affidavit shows employment at Dodge Brothers Machine Shop on Monroe Avenue. His weekly wage is listed as $9.50. The daughter has dark hair, tied back with a strip of cloth. She watches you without sound. Her left hand holds the fabric of her mother's shawl. Destination city: Detroit, Michigan. Her husband has been there for 11 months. Money on person. The woman reaches into a cloth bag and removes a leather pouch. She opens it on the desk. Coins and bills. You count. $19.40 in U.S. currency. Sponsor's occupation verified. Automobile parts factory. Dodge Brothers on Monroe Avenue. The affidavit is dated March 28, 1907. The contract labor question must be asked. The woman shakes her head before Sophia finishes translating. No arrangement for work. She will keep house and care for her daughter. You make the notation. The daughter shifts position on her mother's hip. The child's eyes have not left your face. The medical card shows passage through all inspection points. No chalk marks. No detentions. The daughter was examined in her mother's arms and cleared without notation. You stamp the manifest at 3:38 p.m. 314 people have passed Station 7 today. 113 remain in the building awaiting inspection. The afternoon shift will process the remainder. Morrison reaches Station 6 at 3:31 p.m. He will stand behind the inspector there for 6 to 8 minutes. Then he will move to Station 7. The calculation is precise. He arrives at 3:43 p.m. if his pattern holds. You check your pocket watch. 3:38 p.m. 5 minutes. Case 317 is an Italian man, 37 years old, traveling alone to Boston. He worked as a stonecutter in Calabria. He has a letter from a construction company on Hanover Street. The letter states that work is available for experienced stonecutters. Pay is listed as $2.25 per day. The letter is dated January 1907. The contract labor question requires precision. A letter stating work is available is different from a contract requiring employment. The law distinguishes between opportunity and obligation. Did anyone pay for his passage in exchange for labor? Sophia translates. The man responds in Italian. No, he paid his own passage. The letter came after he wrote to the company asking if stonecutters were needed. The company owner is from his village in Calabria. Does the letter require him to work for this company? No, the letter says work is available if he comes to Boston. He is free to work anywhere. You examine the letter. The paper is thin. The ink is dark. The signature at the bottom belongs to someone named Tommaso Ricci. The company name is printed at the top. Ricci Brothers Construction and Stone. The man has $32 in his possession. He can read Italian. He has never been arrested. His medical card shows no notations. You stamp the manifest at 3:41 p.m. Morrison's footsteps are even and measured. He does not hurry. He observes from positions that allow him to see the inspector's hands, the immigrant's face, and the documents on the desk simultaneously. At Station 5 he stood for 7 minutes. At Station 6 his rotation began at 3:31 p.m. By 3:38 p.m. he had moved on. 7 minutes per station. He will arrive at Station 7 at 3:45 p.m. You check the time. 3:41 p.m. 4 minutes. Case 318 approaches the desk. A Greek woman, 29 years old, traveling with her mother to Lowell, Massachusetts. The mother is 61. The manifest shows they are joining the woman's husband, who works in a textile mill. The husband's affidavit lists his position as loom operator at the Boot Cotton Mills. His wage is $8 per week. The affidavit is signed and notarized. The address is on Dutton Street. The daughter answers the questions. The mother stands beside her without speaking. Money on person. The daughter shows $27 in U.S. currency. The bills are worn but intact. Sponsor's occupation. Loom operator at the Boot Cotton Mills in Lowell. He has worked there for 14 months. The medical cards show passage through all stations without notation. Both women were examined and cleared. You stamp the manifest at 3:44 p.m. Morrison's rotation moves past Station 6. His notebook is open. He walks towards Station 7. Case 319 is a Romanian man, 41 years old, traveling alone to Cleveland. He worked as a carpenter in Bucharest. He has a letter from his brother who arrived in Cleveland 3 years earlier. The brother works at a furniture factory on St. Clair Avenue. The letter states the factory is hiring carpenters. No wages listed. The letter is dated February 1907. You ask about contract labor. The man shakes his head before Sophia finishes. His brother wrote to tell him carpenters are needed. No promise of employment. No payment for passage. He saved money for 2 years to buy the ticket himself. The man has $39 in U.S. currency. His medical card is clear. No detentions. No notations. You stamp the manifest at 3:47 p.m. Morrison stands 12 feet behind your chair. He arrived during the Romanian carpenter's interview. He has been there for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. His presence changes nothing about the questions you ask or the order in which you ask them. Case 320 approaches. A Hungarian woman, 33 years old, traveling with a son who is 14. They are going to Pittsburgh where her husband works in a glass factory. The husband's affidavit shows employment at the Fort Pitt Glass Company. Weekly wage, $9. The affidavit is dated April 1907. The son is tall enough to see over the desk without standing on anything. His mother answers the questions in Hungarian while he stands beside her. Destination: Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Fort Pitt Glass Company. Her husband has worked there for 8 months. Money on person. She shows $24.60. The boy's age: 14. He will attend school in Pittsburgh. The medical cards show no notations. Both passed inspection without delay. You stamp the manifest at 3:49 p.m. Morrison writes in his notebook. The sound of the pencil on paper is distinct. Even through the noise of the Great Hall, he does not speak, he does not move forward. He stands in position behind you and records his observations. Case 321 is a Finnish man, 28 years old, traveling alone to Duluth, Minnesota. He worked in a copper mine in Finland. He has a letter from a mining company in Duluth stating that miners are needed. The letter lists wages at $2.75 per day. The letter is dated December 1906. Contract labor again. The question must be precise. Did anyone pay his passage in exchange for work? No. He saved money from his mining work in Finland. He bought the ticket himself in Helsinki. Does the letter require him to work for this company? No. The letter says miners are needed. He wrote to ask. They responded that work is available. You examine the letter, it is printed in English. The company name is at the top, Mesabi Mining Company. The signature belongs to someone named Lars Hendrickson. The man has $43. His medical card is clear. You stamp the manifest at 3:52 p.m. Morrison closes his notebook. He moves towards Station 8. His rotation at Station 7 lasted 5 minutes and 11 seconds. He observed 6 cases. He wrote 3 entries. You do not look up as he walks away. Case 322 is a Polish family. Father, mother, 2 daughters aged 8 and 10. They are traveling to Buffalo, where the father's cousin works in a steel plant. The cousin's affidavit shows steady employment and lists a wage of $10 per week. The address is on William Street. The father answers the questions. The mother holds the hand of the younger daughter. The older daughter stands without assistance. The 427 people who have passed through Station 7 today left from 7 different European ports. They carried documents in 14 languages. They traveled in third class on ships owned by 6 different steamship companies. The medical inspectors examined them all. The interpreters translated their answers. The immigration inspectors verified their destinations and counted their money. 43 names remain in your notebook. Their cases were not straightforward. Their paperwork needed additional review. Some were held for special inquiry. Others will board trains to their destinations after further verification. You stamp the manifest for case 322 at 3:56 p.m. The family gathers their bags and moves toward the stairs. Sophia stands beside Station 7 with her hands folded in front of her. She has translated over 2,000 questions today. Her voice has not changed its tone or rhythm. The light from the arched windows has shifted. The angle is steeper now. The shadows on the floor are longer. Case 323 approaches the desk. Case 324 approaches the desk. Italian woman, 34 years old, traveling with 3 children ages 7, 5 and 2. The manifest shows passage from Naples, third-class steerage, 17 days at sea. Medical notation shows clear passage through health screening. All 4 carry admission stamps from the staircase examination. Final destination. Sophia translates. The woman answers in Italian that runs for perhaps 20 seconds. Chicago, Sophia says. She says Chicago. You write Chicago on the form. Name of sponsor. Sophia translates. The woman reaches into a cloth bag and produces a letter. The envelope shows an address in Chicago written in careful script. She unfolds the letter and begins reading sections aloud in Italian, her finger moving across the page. Sophia listens without interruption. The woman reads for nearly 30 seconds. Specific details about housing arrangements, work availability, family connections, addresses where she should report upon arrival. Her husband, Sophia says, Antonio Rossi, he has been in Chicago for 14 months. He works in a factory. He has arranged housing. You write the husband's name on the form. The woman is still speaking, still pointing to sections of the letter, still providing information that Sophia has already translated. Sufficient funds for immediate needs. The woman reaches into the bag again. She produces a small leather purse and counts coins onto the desk. $32 in American currency. She counts it twice. her movements deliberate, making certain you see each coin clearly. You write the amount on the form. The medical notation shows no health concerns, the destination is confirmed, the sponsor is documented, the funds are adequate. Any person meeting you in New York. Sophia translates. The woman shakes her head and responds in Italian, a short answer this time, perhaps 10 words. No one, Sophia says. She will proceed directly to the railroad ticket office for Chicago. The 7-year-old stands close to his mother's side. The 5-year-old holds the 2-year-old's hand. None of them speak during the interview. You initial the form. You reach for the admission stamp. The woman says something in Italian, her voice quiet, the words coming quickly. Sophia pauses. Half a second. No more than that. She says thank you, Sophia translates. You stamp the admission form. Proceed to the railroad ticket window. The woman gathers her children. The 7-year-old picks up the cloth bag. They move toward the stairs. Case 325 approaches the desk. Greek man, 47 years old, traveling alone to Boston. Medical notation shows clear passage, sufficient funds documented, employment waiting. The questions run in sequence. The answers come without complication. You initial the form, you stamp admission. Case 326. Case 327. Case 328. The clock reads 4:23 p.m. Sophia translates Greek, then Polish, then Hungarian. She compresses 5-minute explanations into 20-second summaries. She translates meaning, rather than literal words, when literal translation would create procedural problems. She has been standing at this desk since 7 a.m. 9 hours and 23 minutes. She will stand here until the last case is processed, approximately 1 hour and 37 minutes from now. You process case 329. Russian family traveling to Pittsburgh. Medical notation clear. Sponsor documented. Admission stamped. The Great Hall murmur continues. Voices in 20 languages. Footsteps on tile. The shuffle of papers at 9 stations processing the 427 people at Station 7 today. Part of the 747 people in the building. Part of the 12 million who will pass through these doors before the station closes in 1954. Each one processed by inspectors who will learn to compress entire lives into the space available on a form. Sophia's voice remains steady. She translates without visible fatigue. When she pauses half a second longer than usual, it is only because the immigrant's answer requires compression, before it fits the space available on the form. Case 330 approaches the desk. Polish woman traveling to Detroit. Final destination. Sophia translates. The woman answers. Sophia compresses the answer into 2 words. Detroit, she says. She says Detroit. You write Detroit on the form. The April light through the high windows has begun its afternoon shift. Lower angle now, warmer color, the quality that comes in the hour before early spring dusk. Case 331. Italian man traveling to Philadelphia. Case 332. Hungarian woman traveling to Cleveland. The questions run in sequence. Sophia translates. You write. You stamp admission. Morrison completed his rotation at Station 7 11 minutes ago. He observed your work for 6 minutes and 40 seconds before moving to Station 8. He made no notations in his leather book regarding your processing rate, your documentation accuracy, or the way you reach for your left coat pocket once per hour when you stretch your writing hand. Because you did not reach for your left coat pocket during those 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Case 333 approaches the desk. You walk down the south stairs at 6:14 p.m. The registry room holds 23 people now, down from 747 at mid-morning. The benches stand mostly empty. Two families wait near the money exchange window. A Greek man sits alone by the east window, his canvas bag resting between his feet. Your coat collar feels tight where it sits against your neck. You do not adjust it. The ferry terminal clerk nods as you pass. Evening, Inspector. You nod back without speaking. Outside, the wind comes across the harbor from the southwest. The smell of salt water mixes with coal smoke from the ferries. The Manhattan skyline shows sharp against the April dusk. Buildings lit from within now, windows beginning their evening glow. The 6:20 ferry sits low in the water. Perhaps 40 passengers waiting at the rail. You board and move to the port side, away from the crowd. The engines vibrate through the deck. The ferry pulls away from Ellis Island. Behind you, the registry building grows smaller. The lights in the great hall windows make yellow squares against the red brick. Station 7 is dark now, the inspection desk cleared, the forms filed in the cabinet beneath the window where they will wait until morning. Station 8 still shows a light. Morrison works late most evenings, reviewing his compliance notebook, preparing his weekly report for Commissioner Watchorn. The ferry moves across the harbor. The water is choppy, breaking white against the hull. A woman stands near the stern, holding a child, who cannot be more than 3 years old. The child watches the wake spread behind the ferry, pointing at the water without speaking. You reach into your coat pocket, not the left pocket, the right pocket, where you keep your ferry ticket stub. You pull it out, look at it for no particular reason, put it back. Your hand does not shake. Your breathing remains steady. The movement was ordinary. Exactly what a man does when checking his pocket contents at the end of a long workday. But Morrison is not on this ferry to observe it. The Manhattan Pier comes into view. The ferry slows, turning to port for docking. You count the windows on the building across from the pier terminal. 43 windows on the 4th floor. 11 windows lit. The arithmetic is clear enough. Evening offices emptying, only the late workers remaining. The ferry bumps against the pilings. Dock workers secure the lines. The gangway drops. You walk up the pier towards South Street. The notebook in your left coat pocket weighs 3 ounces, the same weight as this morning. The same weight as yesterday morning. The same weight as 47 days ago when you first transferred it from your desk drawer to your coat pocket, because the space available in the drawer had become insufficient for documents that required secure storage away from the registry building. Your apartment is 14 blocks north and 3 blocks west, approximately 1 mile, 32 minutes at your normal walking pace. You walk at your normal walking pace. The street lamps are lit now along South Street. Pushcart vendors close their stalls for the evening. A man sells roasted chestnuts from a cart near Pearl Street, the smell of wood smoke and scorched shells mixing with the harbor air. You pass the corner where the Italian grocery stays open until 8 p.m. Through the window you can see the proprietor's wife weighing olive oil into a customer's bottle. The scale's brass beam catches the lamplight as it balances. 43 names in the notebook. 43 people processed through Station 7 between January 19th and April 12th, who required additional documentation review. 43 cases where the arithmetic did not balance, where sponsor claims contradicted manifest records, where medical notations showed irregularities that legal entry could not accommodate. 43 admissions stamped because the procedural violations were small enough to correct through documentation adjustment, rather than formal deportation proceedings. 43 violations that Morrison's compliance review would classify as inspector discretion exceeding bureau guidelines. You turn north on Water Street. Your legs feel the 9 hours of standing, not pain, not yet, but awareness, the deep muscle fatigue that comes from holding the same position through 427 interviews. Sophia will take the 6:40 ferry. She lives in Brooklyn, near the Navy Yard, in a boarding house where 7 other women rent rooms by the week. She has translated at Ellis Island for 4 years and 3 months. Her rate of pay is $11 per week, paid every Saturday at the administrative window on the second floor. She compresses 5-minute explanations into 20-second summaries because the space available on inspection forms does not accommodate full translations of immigrant testimony. She pauses half a second when the compression requires judgment regarding which details matter for legal entry and which details serve only emotional purposes that immigration law does not recognize. 4 years and 3 months of translation work, 9 hours per day, 6 days per week. Approximately 9,000 hours standing at inspection desks, converting human stories into bureaucratic summaries. She has never mentioned the pauses. You have never asked about them. You reach your apartment building at 6:52 p.m. The landlady is sweeping the front steps. She nods as you pass. Evening, Inspector. Evening, Mrs. Kaufman. You climb the stairs to the 3rd floor. Your apartment key sits in your right coat pocket, separate from the ferry ticket stub. You unlock the door and enter. The room is dark. You light the wall sconce near the door. Your apartment contains 1 main room, 1 bedroom and a washroom. Approximately 400 square feet total. Monthly rent is $18, paid to Mrs. Kaufman on the 1st of each month. You remove your coat. You hang it on the hook near the door. The notebook remains in the left pocket. You walk to the washroom. You fill the basin with cold water. You wash your face and hands. The water pressure is low this evening. The building's water tank probably needs refilling. You dry your hands on the towel hanging beside the basin. When you return to the main room, your coat still hangs on the hook. The notebook still sits in the left pocket. The weight distribution is unchanged from this morning. Tomorrow morning you will put the coat on again. You will take the ferry to Ellis Island. You will climb the south stairs to the registry building. You will process the cases assigned to Station 7. Sophia will stand beside your desk and translate. Morrison will continue his supervisor rotation, observing inspectors for behavioral anomalies that indicate documentation irregularities. The arithmetic will remain clear. You turn down the wall sconce until the flame gutters low but does not go out. You sit in the chair by the window. Outside, the street lamps make pools of yellow light along Water Street. A vendor's cart moves south toward the piers, the wheels rattling over cobblestones. You sit in the chair and watch the street below until the vendor's cart disappears, and the sound of its wheels fades into the evening noise of Lower Manhattan. Morning light crosses the floor in a line that moves 1 inch west every 11 minutes. You watch the line reach the edge of the washroom door at 6:47 a.m. You have been awake since 5:30. The room was still dark then. You lay in bed and listen to the building wake around you. Footsteps on the stairs. Mrs. Kaufman's voice in the hallway below. The rattle of the water pump when someone on the second floor began washing. At 6:15 you rose and dressed. The clothes you wore yesterday hang on the hook behind the bedroom door. You wear different clothes today. Same cut, same color, but laundered Tuesday evening and hung to dry overnight. The fabric is still slightly damp at the collar. Your coat hangs in the main room where you left it last night. The notebook is still in the left pocket. You eat breakfast at the table near the window. Bread, butter, coffee. The coffee is instant powder, mixed with hot water from the kettle. The taste is bitter and slightly metallic. You drink it without sugar. Through the window you can see Water Street filling with morning traffic. A milk wagon moves north toward the wholesale district. 2 men carry a rolled carpet between them, walking in step to keep the weight balanced. A woman pushes a pram south toward the ferry terminal. You watch the woman with the pram until she turns east on Fulton Street and moves out of sight. At 7:03 a.m. you wash your breakfast dishes in the basin. The water is cold. You dry the dishes with a cloth towel and stack them on the shelf above the basin. At 7:08 you return to the main room and put on your coat. The notebook settles into the left pocket with the same weight as yesterday, 3 ounces. The spine is rigid against your ribs when you button the coat. You lock the apartment door behind you. Mrs. Kaufman is not on the stairs this morning. The building is quiet, except for the sound of someone coughing on the 4th floor, a wet, persistent sound that continues as you descend to the ground level. Outside, the air is warmer than yesterday. The wind comes from the south instead of the southwest. The smell is different. Less coal smoke, more salt water, a faint trace of garbage from the carts that will make their collection rounds after 9 a.m. You walk south on Water Street, toward the ferry terminal. The Italian grocery is closed. The window shows dark shelves and empty counter space. A handwritten sign on the door says, "Open 8 a.m. The roasted chestnut vendor is not at his corner yet. The space where his cart usually sits is empty, except for scattered shells from yesterday's sales. You reach the ferry terminal at 7:26 a.m. The 7:30 ferry is boarding. Perhaps 50 people wait at the gangway. You recognize 3 other Ellis Island employees, 2 inspectors from registry stations you do not work near, and 1 clerk from the filing department on the 2nd floor. You do not speak to them, they do not speak to you. The ferry sits higher in the water this morning than yesterday evening. Fewer passengers, lighter load. The engines sound different when the vessel is not fully weighted. Higher pitch, less vibration through the deck. You stand at the port rail and watch Manhattan recede. The notebook presses against your ribs with each breath. You adjust your stance slightly, shifting your weight to the left foot. The pressure eases. The harbor is calm this morning. The water shows only small ripples where the wind touches the surface. A tugboat crosses ahead of the ferry, pulling a coal barge toward the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The barge rides so low that water breaks over the deck with each swell. Ellis Island comes into view at 7:41 a.m. The registry building looks the same as every morning, red brick, high windows. The central tower rising above the main entrance. The flag on the tower moves slightly in the south wind. The ferry docks at 7:46. You walk up the pier and enter the building through the staff entrance on the north side. The hallway smells like floor wax and old paper. Your footsteps echo on the tile. You climb the south stairs to the registry room. The first immigrants are already waiting on the benches, perhaps 200 people. They sit quietly, their bags and bundles stacked at their feet. Most of them watch the inspectors' desks. Some watch the high windows. A few watch nothing, their eyes unfocused, their faces empty with the particular exhaustion that comes from 17 days in steerage. You cross the registry room to Station 7. Sophia is not at the desk yet. She usually arrives at 7:52 a.m., 6 minutes from now. You remove your coat and hang it on the hook behind your chair. The notebook swings in the left pocket as the coat settles. The weight pulls the fabric slightly to one side. You sit at the desk. You open the filing cabinet beneath the window and remove this morning's manifest sheets. The first manifest shows the SS Hamburg, arrived 6 a.m. from Bremen, carrying 432 third-class passengers. You arrange the manifest sheets in order. You fill your pen from the inkwell. You set out the admission stamps and the rejection stamps. The rejection stamps to the left, where your hand will not reach them accidentally. At 7:51, Sophia crosses the registry room and takes her position beside your desk. "Good morning, Inspector," she says. "Good morning." She sets her own small notebook on the desk corner, the one where she records difficult translations for later reference. Her handwriting is precise. Each letter formed with careful attention to spacing and legibility. The clock on the north wall reads 7:54 a.m. At 8 a.m., the first case approaches the desk. German man, 29 years old, traveling alone to Milwaukee, Medical notation clear. Sufficient funds documented. Employment waiting. Final destination. Sophia translates into German. The man answers. Milwaukee, Sophia says. He has a cousin there who owns a furniture workshop. You write Milwaukee on the form. The questions run in sequence. The answers come without complication. You initial the form. You stamp admission. Case 2 approaches the desk. The morning light through the high windows is white and direct. It will shift to yellow by mid-afternoon, then amber before evening. The pattern is the same every clear day. You have worked at Station 7 long enough to predict the light quality by checking the clock. Case 3, Case 4, Case 5. Sophia translates German, then Italian, then Polish. Her voice maintains the same steady pitch. She compresses long answers into short summaries. She pauses half a second when the compression requires judgment. At 8:47 a.m., Morrison enters the registry room and begins his morning rounds at Station 5. You can see him from your peripheral vision: grey suit, leather notebook. The particular way he stands with his weight slightly forward, balanced on the balls of his feet, ready to move closer if he observes something worth examining. He will reach Station 7 in approximately 35 minutes. Case 6 approaches the desk. Hungarian woman, 31 years old, traveling with one child. Medical notation clear. Sponsor documented. The questions run in sequence. Sophia translates. You write. You stamp admission. The notebook in your coat pocket, hanging on the hook behind your chair, weighs 3 ounces. Morrison moves to Station 6. Case 7 approaches the desk. The medical examination happens at the base of the stairs. Dr. Senna stands beside the railing with a button hook in his right hand. The instrument is curved metal, polished smooth from repeated use. He uses it to lift each immigrant's eyelid and check for trachoma, a disease that causes permanent blindness and mandatory rejection. The examination takes 15 seconds per person. Dr. Senna lifts the upper eyelid with the button hook's curve, checks the inner surface for inflammation, releases it, repeats with the lower lid. If he sees signs of infection, he marks the immigrant's coat with blue chalk. The chalk mark means detention. The detained immigrant waits in a separate holding area until a second medical inspector can confirm the diagnosis. If both inspectors agree, the immigrant is rejected. If they disagree, the case goes to a board of special inquiry. You watch from Station 7, while Case 334 approaches your desk. The woman is Russian, 39 years old, traveling with 2 children. She passed the medical examination without chalk marks. Her eyes showed no signs of disease. Dr. Senna completed her inspection in 14 seconds and gestured for her to proceed to the registry stations. The button hook inspection is mandatory for all immigrants. It was implemented in 1903 after federal authorities determined that trachoma was responsible for more medical rejections than tuberculosis, heart disease, and mental illness combined. Before 1903, medical inspectors checked for eye disease using only visual observation. The button hook allows them to see inflammation that is not visible on the external surface. Most immigrants do not understand what the button hook is for. They see Dr. Senna standing at the base of the stairs with a metal instrument, and they submit to the examination because they have no choice. Some close their eyes instinctively when the button hook approaches. Dr. Senna speaks quietly in these moments. Not reassurance exactly, just instruction. Keep your eyes open. Look up, look down. Finished. Morrison's weekly compliance report sits on the commissioner's desk 3 floors above you. The report tracks interview duration, documentation patterns, unusual admission rates. Morrison submits every Friday before noon. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow morning you will see his handwriting in the logbook, where inspectors sign their shift reports. His angular script noting observation times and station assignments. The woman at your desk has $19.70. Her final destination is Philadelphia. She has the address of her husband's cousin, who works in a textile mill, and has offered to help her husband find similar employment. You stamp her paperwork. She gathers her children and moves toward the railroad ticket window. Dr. Senna is examining case 335 now. The immigrant is Italian, male, 26 years old. The buttonhook lifts his eyelid. 14 seconds. No chalk mark. The immigrant proceeds to the registry stations. The smell of disinfectant from the medical stations drifts across the registry room floor. Carbolic acid mixed with the wool and sweat smell of winter coats. The 427 people at Station 7 today have passed through that same medical line, submitted to the same buttonhook, carried the same fear of the chalk mark that means rejection. The clock reads 4:52 p.m. You have processed 411 cases today. Sofia Kowalski speaks 7 languages fluently and can manage basic conversation in 6 more. She has worked as an interpreter at Ellis Island for 4 years. Before that, she worked at the Immigrant Aid Office in Manhattan, translating legal documents and helping new arrivals navigate the city's housing and employment systems. Most of the interpreters at Ellis Island speak 3 or 4 languages. Sofia speaks 7 because her father was a merchant who conducted business across Eastern Europe, and she traveled with him as a child. She learned Polish from her mother, German from her tutors, Russian from the servants, Yiddish from the market vendors in Krakow, Italian from a year spent in Venice, Hungarian from 6 months in Budapest, and English from 2 years in New York before her father's death. She does not translate word for word, she translates the meaning. When an immigrant gives a long, detailed answer to a simple question, Sofia condenses it into the essential information the inspector needs. When an immigrant's answer is technically incorrect but substantively true, Sofia adjusts the phrasing to match what the regulation requires. You ask the contract labor question. The immigrant answers in Polish. A long explanation about work arrangements, family connections, promises made by a cousin who emigrated 3 years ago. Sofia listens without interrupting. When the immigrant finishes, she turns to you and speaks in English. She says she has no written contract. Her cousin will help her find work after she arrives, but there is no formal agreement. The answer satisfies the regulation. You record it and continue. This is how Sofia works. She translates the substance, not the syntax. She understands that immigrants do not speak in legally precise language, and that a direct word-for-word translation would often create problems that do not actually exist. She serves as a bridge between 2 systems of understanding: the immigrant's way of explaining their situation, and the inspector's need for answers that fit the categories defined by federal law. She does not explain this to immigrants. They hear her speaking their language, and they assume she is simply repeating their words in English. They do not realize that she is also editing, clarifying, and occasionally protecting them from their own imprecise phrasing. She learned this method during her first month at Ellis Island, when a Hungarian woman gave a 20-minute answer to a yes or no question, and Sofia watched the inspector's patience dissolve into irritation. After that case, Sofia began translating for outcome rather than accuracy. The woman was admitted. The regulation was satisfied. The system continued. You finish case 337. Sofia moves to Station 8 to assist Inspector Chen with a Cantonese-speaking family. You signal for case 338. Morrison does not speak any language except English, but he understands interview rhythm across all 40 languages spoken in this building. He watches for the pause between question and answer, the moment when an interpreter decides what to include and what to omit. He has flagged 3 interpreters this year for what he calls excessive editorial discretion. Sophia has not been flagged, but she knows Morrison watched her for 11 minutes during his November rotation. The Great Hall holds 41 people now. The afternoon light comes through the western windows at a low angle, warming the wooden benches near the far wall. The ferry to Manhattan departs at 5:15 p.m. Case 427 is a Polish woman, 34 years old, traveling alone to Detroit. She has $23.15. Her occupation is listed as seamstress. She has the address of her sister, who has lived in Detroit for 2 years and works in a garment factory. She has no written contract. She is not an anarchist, a polygamist, or a pauper. She has no criminal record. She passed the medical examination with no chalk marks. You ask the questions in sequence. Sophia translates. The woman answers. You record her responses in the ledger. Name, age, occupation, nationality, last residence, final destination, amount of money, sponsor information. The interview takes 4 minutes and 18 seconds. You stamp her paperwork with the admission seal. The woman picks up her bag and walks toward the railroad ticket window. You watch her cross the registry room floor until she disappears into the crowd near the stairs. The clock reads 5:03 p.m. You have processed 427 cases today. Your shift ends at 6 p.m., but the last ferry to Manhattan departs at 5:15, and the final cases of the day board that crossing. After 5:15, the building enters its evening routine. Detained immigrants move to the dormitories. Rejected immigrants move to the deportation area. Inspectors complete their daily reports and prepare for the next shift. You close the ledger and place your pen in its holder. The ink has dried on the last entry. The woman's name is recorded in your handwriting, along with 426 others processed today at Station 7. Tomorrow you will return at 7 a.m. and open a new ledger, and the work will continue in the same sequence. Name, age, occupation, destination, money, sponsor, questions, stamp, next case. The notebook in your left coat pocket contains 43 names. Case 427 is not one of them. She required no deviation from procedure. Her admission followed the exact sequence defined by regulation. This is the outcome you prefer. The law applied without friction. The immigrant admitted because the circumstances align. No choice required beyond professional judgment. Most cases follow this pattern. The notebook exists for the exceptions. You stand and stretch your writing hand. The ferry horn sounds from the harbor, the 5:15 departure preparing to leave. Through the window you can see immigrants boarding, carrying their bags, moving toward the gangway. The woman from case 427 will be among them. She will cross to Manhattan, proceed to the railroad station, board a train to Detroit, arrive at her sister's address, begin whatever life awaits her there. You do not know what that life will be. You know only that you admitted her legally, that her paperwork is in order, that tomorrow she will be one of the 240,000 rejected across Ellis Island's history, who did not pass through these registry stations, one of the 12 million who did, one number in a ledger that holds both outcomes without comment. The afternoon light holds steady through the western windows. The registry room is nearly empty now. Sophia is translating for the last case at Station 8. The ferry horn sounds again. The final boarding call. You pick up your coat and walk toward the stairs. The clock reads 5:02 p.m. You have been standing for 9 hours and 42 minutes. Your right hand aches from holding the pen. The ache is familiar. It appears every day between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. A tightness that begins in the knuckles and spreads toward the wrist. Case 427's manifest sits on the desk in front of you. The woman's name is written in your handwriting, along with 426 others processed today at Station 7. Each entry represents a decision made in approximately 2 minutes. Name, age, occupation, money, destination, sponsor, contract question, health, literacy, politics. The documentation must be filed before you leave. Immigration regulations require all manifests to be submitted to the Records Division before end of shift. You gather the manifests into a stack. The paper is thin, lightweight. The stack measures approximately 3 inches when compressed. You tap the bottom edge against the desk surface twice to align the pages. The sound is sharp in the emptying registry room. Sophia stands near the interpreter station, gathering her own materials. She does not look up. Around you, other inspectors are performing the same closing routine. Manifests collected, pens capped, chairs pushed back from desks. Henderson at Station 8 has already left. Morrison departed at 4:15 p.m. when his rotation ended. His leather notebook returned to his coat pocket. The Great Hall holds perhaps 50 people now, down from 1,100 at mid-morning. You carry the manifests toward the Records Division office at the north end of the registry room. Your footsteps echo against the tile floor. Through the high windows, April light slants at a lower angle than it held at noon. The warmth has shifted, still present, but softer now, losing its edge as the afternoon moves toward evening. The Records Division clerk accepts the manifests without comment. He has processed documentation from 7 stations today, approximately 3,000 cases total. Your stack joins others, already filed in the cabinet behind his desk. The clerk makes a notation in his log. Station 7, April 17, 1907, 427 cases. Submitted 5:04 p.m. Inspector Johnson. 427 people passed through Station 7 today. 11,000 passed through the building. Somewhere in those numbers, 43 names that will never appear in any official record. The arithmetic is simple. The ledger balances. The system holds. The transaction takes 40 seconds. When you turn back toward Station 7, the desk where you have worked for 9 hours and 42 minutes looks different in the late afternoon light. The chair sits at an angle you did not leave it in. Someone from the night cleaning crew must have moved it already, preparing for tomorrow's shift. The stamp pad remains where you placed it. The ink is dry now. You return to the desk one final time. Your coat hangs on the back of the chair where you left it at 7 a.m. The fabric is cool when you lift it. The notebook rests in the left pocket, exactly where it has been all day. Its presence has not changed. Its weight has not increased or decreased. 43 names, written in shorthand only you can read. The ferry to Manhattan departs at 5:15 p.m. You have 11 minutes. The ferry engine runs at low throttle as the boat pulls away from Ellis Island. The vibration travels through the deck planking, steady and mechanical. You stand at the port rail. The water between the island and Manhattan is gray-green, choppy with small white caps where the harbor current meets the evening wind. Behind you, the registry building grows smaller. The red brick darkens as the sun drops lower. The Great Hall windows catch the last direct light, rectangular flashes of gold that fade as the ferry turns north toward the Battery. By morning, the building will hold another 1,100 people. The desks will be set. The manifests will be stacked. The system will open again at 7 o'clock. The notebook remains in your left coat pocket. You do not touch it. The ferry ride takes 11 minutes in calm water. Longer if the current is strong. Today the current is moderate. The crossing will take 13 minutes. Other inspectors stand along the rail. Henderson is smoking. Wallace from Station 9 leans against the cabin wall, his hat pulled low. No one speaks. The day's work does not follow you onto the ferry. That is the unwritten rule. You process cases at the island. You file documentation at the island. You leave the building and the work stays behind. Except the notebook. The wind is cool against your face. It smells of salt and diesel fuel, and the particular sourness of harbor water where it collects against pilings. The smell is stronger in summer. In April, it is present but faint, a background note beneath the mechanical smells of the boat. Sophia took the same ferry, 10 minutes ahead of this one. By now she has reached the Battery. She will walk north on Greenwich Street to the boarding house, where she rents a room. Tomorrow she will return on the 6:45 a.m. ferry, and take her position at the interpreter's station. The pattern repeats. The schedule holds. You watch the water. The ferry's wake spreads in a wide V behind the stern, white foam against darker water. The foam dissolves quickly. Within 30 seconds the surface is smooth again. No evidence that the boat passed through. The harbor does not retain records. Manhattan grows larger ahead. The buildings along the waterfront are dark shapes backlit by the falling sun, somewhere in those streets. The apartment you rent on Eldridge Street, the third-floor walk-up with the window that overlooks the fire escape. The room will be cool when you arrive. The radiator only holds heat until mid-afternoon in April. The ferry engine changes pitch slightly as the boat approaches the dock. The captain throttles down. The boat glides the last 100 feet, momentum carrying it forward, until the hull bumps gently against the rubber-wrapped pilings. A deckhand throws a rope to the dock worker. The rope goes taut. The ferry is secured. You wait until the other inspectors have disembarked before you step onto the dock. Your legs adjust to the stillness of solid ground after 13 minutes of subtle motion. The adjustment takes 3 or 4 seconds. A brief disorientation, then equilibrium. You walk north on Washington Street. The sidewalk is uneven, cobblestones worn smooth in the center where foot traffic concentrates. The street smells of fish and wet wood and coal smoke from the buildings, heating systems. April evening in Lower Manhattan, cool but not cold, the air still holding a memory of the afternoon's warmth. The notebook remains in your pocket, 43 names. Written in shorthand. Secure. The apartment is on the 3rd floor. You climb the stairs slowly. Your legs are tired. 9 hours and 42 minutes of standing. Then the ferry crossing. Then the walk from the Battery. The stairwell is dark. The landlord lights the gas lamps at 7 p.m. It is 5:47 p.m. now. The door unlocks with the small brass key you keep on the same ring as your pocket watch chain. The room inside is exactly as you left it this morning. Narrow bed against the north wall. Writing desk under the window. 2 chairs. A washstand. A cast-iron radiator that has gone cold. The window faces east, overlooking the fire escape and the alley below. No direct sunlight reaches this side of the building in the afternoon. You place your coat on the back of one chair. The notebook comes out of the left pocket. You set it on the desk surface centered on the blotter. The cover is dark leather, unmarked. The pages inside hold 43 names, written in Gregg shorthand, a system designed for court reporters and secretaries. The curves and loops mean nothing to anyone who has not studied the method. To you, they are names. Addresses. Dates. A record of every accommodation you have made in 3 years. The room is quiet. Outside, you can hear the faint sounds of the street. A cart passing. Someone shouting in Italian, the distant clang of the 6th Avenue elevated train. The sounds are muted, filtered through glass and distance. You sit at the desk. The chair is hard wood, straight-backed. Your shoulders hold the posture you have maintained all day. The posture does not release immediately. The body remembers its position long after the position is no longer required. Through the window, the light is fading. The buildings across the alley are dark shapes now, their details lost to shadow. In summer, the alley holds heat until late evening. In April, the warmth drains quickly once the sun is gone. Tomorrow you will wake at 5:30 a.m. You will dress in the same clothes, or clothes identical to them. You will walk to the Battery and board the 6:45 a.m. ferry. You will take your position at Station 7 at 7 a.m. when the doors open. The manifests will be stacked. The stamp will be inked. The first case of the day will step forward, and you will ask the first question, name. The pattern repeats. It has repeated for 3 years. It will repeat tomorrow. The notebook remains on the desk. 43 names that exist nowhere else. Not in the official record. Not in the ledgers filed with the Records Division clerk. Not in the report submitted to Commissioner Watchorn. Only here, in shorthand, on pages that can be burned in 30 seconds if the need arises. You do not open the notebook tonight. There is no reason to open it. The names are secure, the information is recorded, the work is complete. Outside, the street sounds grow quieter as evening deepens. The alley fills with shadow. The radiator ticks once, as the metal contracts in the cooling air. You remain at the desk, sitting in the chair, your hands resting on the blotter on either side of the notebook. The day does not release you immediately. The decisions made, 427 of them, do not dissolve the moment you leave the island. They remain present, a weight that decreases gradually, over hours, until sleep finally takes them. But not yet. Not while the light still holds in the window. Not while the notebook sits on the desk, closed, its contents secure. The room waits, the night waits, tomorrow waits. For now, you sit, you breathe. The day begins to recede. The ferry engine hums beneath your feet, a steady rhythm, something you feel more than hear. You sit on the bench near the stern, your coat is folded beside you. The notebook is in the inner pocket, you don't need to check, it's there, it has always been there. The water is dark now, the sun is gone. What remains is the memory of light, pale orange along the western edge of the sky, fading as you watch. The harbor holds the last warmth of the day. You can feel it in the air. Not heat, just the absence of cold. Your hands rest on your knees. They are still. No pen, no paper, no questions to ask. The shift is over. The cases are filed. The 427 people at Station 7 today have moved through and into whatever comes next. You did what you could. You always do. The ferry rocks gently. The water beneath is never still. Even when the surface looks calm, there is movement. Currents you cannot see, tides that do not stop. The engine vibration travels up through the deck, into your legs, into your spine. It is a constant pressure, not unpleasant, just there. You breathe in, salt, diesel. The faint smell of wet wood. You breathe out. The rhythm matches the engine, steady, automatic. You don't have to think about it. The city is ahead. Lights beginning to appear in windows, street lamps coming on one by one. The ferry moves toward them slowly. There is no hurry. The crossing takes 12 minutes. You have made this crossing thousands of times. You will make it thousands more. Your shoulders settle. The weight you carried all day, the standing, the watching, the decisions begins to dissolve. Not gone, just softer. Distributed across the water, the air, the engine's hum. The ferry holds you. The bench supports your weight. You do not have to hold yourself upright anymore. The notebook is still in your pocket, you know this. But right now, it does not matter. Right now, there is only the crossing, the water, the fading light, the steady movement toward shore. April evening. Cool air. The harbor quiet except for the engine, and the water against the hull. You close your eyes for a moment. Just a moment. The vibration continues. The rhythm does not change. You are tired. Not exhausted, just tired. The good kind. The kind that comes after work is done. After the day is over. After the last case has been processed, and the last admission slip has been stamped, and the last person has moved toward the stairs. The 747 people in the building today, the 240,000 rejected across Ellis Island's history. Numbers that exist somewhere in ledgers, in reports, in the archives beneath the Great Hall. You carried your small portion of that weight. Now the water carries you. The ferry rocks, you rock with it. There is no resistance, just movement, just breath, just the slow crossing from island to shore. The light dissolves completely now. The sky is dark. The water is dark. Only the city ahead holds light. and you are moving toward it, slowly, steadily, without thought. The air changes as the ferry approaches the dock. Cooler. Sharper. The smell of the city mixing with the harbor, smoke from chimneys, horses, something cooking somewhere blocks away. You cannot name it. Just warmth carried on cold air. Your eyes are open. You are looking at nothing in particular, the lights on shore, the other passengers beginning to stand. Their silhouettes dark against the glow from the terminal building. No one speaks. The crossing is almost over. The engine slows. You feel the change before you hear it. The vibration shifts. Deeper. Slower. The ferry is turning slightly, angling toward the slip. The water sounds different here. Closer to shore, the waves break differently against the pilings. You do not stand yet. There is no rush. The others will leave first. You will follow when the deck is clear. This is your routine. This has always been your routine. Your hands are warm now. You press them flat against your thighs. The fabric of your trousers is worn smooth. 11 years of this. 11 years of standing and sitting and crossing and returning. The cloth remembers. Your body remembers. The smell of bread from somewhere. A bakery keeping late hours. Or early hours. You cannot tell any more. Time has softened. The day blurs at the edges. Morning feels distant. Station 7 feels distant. The Great Hall feels like something you left weeks ago, not minutes. The ferry bumps gently against the dock. Once. Twice. Then settles. Ropes are thrown. You hear them land. Hear the creak of wood as the gangplank is lowered. Footsteps. Voices. But they are far away. They do not concern you. You breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. The air is so thick here you could almost taste it. Salt and smoke and stone and something green. Trees in Battery Park. Grass wet with evening dew. The city smells alive. Different from the island. Different from the salt and scrubbed floors and the pressed bodies of the Great Hall. Your shoulders are loose. Your spine curves slightly. You are not slumping. Just settling. Letting gravity do its work. The bench holds you, the ferry holds you, the water holds everything. Someone coughs. Footsteps fade. The deck is quieter now. Most of the passengers are gone. You open your eyes fully. Stand slowly. Your legs are steady. They know this movement. They have done this movement 10,000 times. You pick up your coat. Put it on, button it halfway. The notebook shifts in the pocket. You feel it, you do not check it. It is there. It will always be there. Until it isn't. You walk toward the gangplank. Your footsteps echo on the deck. Then on wood, then on stone. The terminal building is ahead. Warm light spills from its windows. You walk toward it, through it, out the other side into the street. The city at night. Not dark, never dark, just softer. The edges blurred. The sounds muffled. You turn north. Your feet know the way. You walk. The boarding house is 14 blocks north. Your room is on the 3rd floor. The window faces an alley. In summer the alley is loud. Children, vendors, arguments that carry up through open windows. In April it is quieter. Just footsteps. Occasional voices. The rattle of a cart over cobblestones. You do not think about the walk. Your body does it. Left foot, right foot, breathe. The rhythm matches something. Not the ferry engine. Not the clock in the Great Hall. Something older. Something steadier. The streets are not empty. A man smoking outside a tavern. 2 women walking together. Talking in a language you do not recognize. A child running ahead of his mother. Laughing. You pass them all. You do not look at them. You do not need to. Your coat is open now. The evening is not cold, just cool. The air feels good on your chest. You can feel your heartbeat. Slow, regular. The walk is not effort, just movement. Somewhere a dog barks. Once, then quiet. Somewhere a door closes. Somewhere a voice calls a name and another voice answers. The city is never silent. Even at night. Even in the quietest hours. There is always something. Always someone. Always breath and movement, and the soft hum of 10,000 lives happening at once. You reach the boarding house. The front steps are worn smooth in the center where everyone walks. You climb them. 5 steps. The door is unlocked. You push it open. The hallway smells like cabbage and lamp oil. You do not mind. The stairs creak. 3rd step. 7th step. 11th step. Always the same ones. You do not need light. Your feet know. 3rd floor. Your door is at the end of the hall. You unlock it. Step inside. Close it behind you. The room is dark. You do not light the lamp. Not yet. You stand for a moment, just breathing. The window shows a slice of sky. No stars. Too much city light. Just dark gray. Almost black. The alley below is quiet. You take off your coat, hang it on the hook by the door, the notebook stays in the pocket, you sit on the edge of the bed, take off your shoes. Your feet are tired. Not painful, just tired. They have carried you for 11 hours. They will carry you again tomorrow. You lie back, the mattress is firm, the pillow is thin. You do not care. Your body is heavy now, so heavy. The bed holds you, the room holds you, the building holds everything. Outside, the city continues. Inside you are still. Your eyes close. Not sleep yet, just rest. Just the slow dissolving of the day into darkness. The cases blur together. The faces blur together. The voices, the questions, the admission slips, the chalk marks, the stairs, the ferry, the crossing, the walk. All of it softening, spreading out, becoming part of the air you breathe. Tomorrow you will return. Tomorrow the notebook will return. Tomorrow Station 7 will fill again with voices and bodies and the endless stream of people who have come so far and have so much farther to go. But that is tomorrow. Tonight there is only this. Breath and darkness and the knowledge that the work is done. For now. The work is done. Your breathing slows. Deepens. The room is dark. The alley is quiet. The city hums somewhere beyond the walls, but it does not reach you here. Your hands rest on your chest. You can feel your heartbeat through your palms. Steady, calm, the rhythm that has carried you through 190,000 decisions. Through 11 years. Through the 43 names in the notebook that no one else will ever know. The notebook is in your coat pocket by the door. It does not call to you. It does not weigh on you. It simply exists. A record. A choice. A line drawn between what the law requires and what the moment demanded. Tomorrow, at 7 you will return to Station 7. The great hall will fill. The line will form. The questions will be asked and answered. The chalk marks will move through the crowd. The ferry will cross the harbor carrying people toward a country that may or may not let them stay. You will sit at your desk. You will open the first manifest. You will signal for case 1, and the day will begin again. But tonight you are here, in this room, in this darkness, your body sinking into the mattress, your breath slowing, your mind quieting. The April air moves through the cracked window. Cool, gentle, it touches your face. Your hands. It fills the room with the smell of the city sleeping. Bread baking for tomorrow's breakfast. Horses settled in their stables. 10,000 people in 10,000 rooms doing exactly what you are doing now. Letting go. Letting the day dissolve. Letting the work fade into memory so that tomorrow it can begin again. Your eyes are closed, your body is still. Somewhere in the building someone coughs. Someone walks across a floor. Someone whispers something you cannot hear. And then even those sounds fade. There is only breath now. Only the slow rise and fall of your chest. Only the darkness behind your eyelids. only the knowledge that you are here, and the work is done, and tomorrow will come whether you are ready or not. But you will be ready, you are always ready. The city sleeps, the harbor sleeps, the island sleeps, and you, Registry Inspector Thomas Johnson, Station 7, Ellis Island, you sleep too. Your breath evens, your body releases, the last thread of waking dissolves, and you are gone, into the darkness, into the quiet. Into the place where 190,000 cases and 43 names, and 11 years of standing and watching and deciding, all finally mercifully fall away. And there is only sleep.